and ever-changing views, and computer terminology, Commodore reviews. Are you keeping up with the Commodore? 'Cause the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up with the Commodore? 'Cause the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up? 'Cause the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up? 'Cause the Commodore is keeping up with you.
Hello, and welcome to episode 76 of Zapped to the Past. My name is Adrian Mills, and I'm joined as ever by Graham Raddings. If you haven't listened before, then this is a podcast where we discuss games that were released for the Commodore 64. We're using the magazine Zap 64 as a monthly guide for the games to focus on, but we are in no way affiliated with Zap 64 itself. This week, we're going to be starting our look at February 1988 and the first batch of games reviewed in issue 34 of Zap 64, along with what was also going on in the UK singles chart that month. So, Graham, tell us exactly what we can expect in this episode.
In this 3-star all-inclusive holiday resort in the Costa de la Commodore, featuring an all-you-can-eat menu of eggy chips, bread burger and pizza toasties, the Giddy Goon Fun Club for Kids with Bongo McGee and his comedy parakeet, Pippi, a feature paddling pool cocktail bar called the Angry Balloon, serving local beer El Drinko and a cocktail named the Married Fandango, and a 3 till 4 a.m. nightclub for adults called Sweat, with DJs Ryan Steele and Martin de la Fuego playing a mix of Wendy House and Bongo Techno of an episode. We test our moral compasses in the jungle as we battle through the crazy difficulty of the harrowing movie-turned-video game Platoon, push down for up and run for our space-suited lives in the samey Super G-Man, explore the hilarious fun-soaked life of an unemployed alcoholic from the north of England in the dreary Andy Capp, and scoot our blockiest tanks around a blocky maze looking for nuclear caterpillars in the tiresome Lifeforce. If you've not quite eaten enough mini bread rolls and butter with your sausage and spaghetti on toast and can sense a bowl of profiteroles in your near future, we slip into our best rainbow disco pants and head to a musical maze on a quest for tunes in the somewhat eye-watering Beat It, Jamming 2, dive once again into the multi-vehicular and facially obscured world of Matt Tracker in Mask 2, go on a genocidal rampage across the snowman and tree-covered landscapes piloting our experimental RP-216 fighter in Out of This World, before exploring the nearly brand events of the space between an Olympics in the worthless Winter Olympiad 88. As we drive our experienced truck down the motorway of C64 games, we know that some of the titles are just roadkill. We know that because we ran over them. You have to be cruel to be kind, you know.
Super. But before we do that, before we do that, we must, as ever, at the start of a new month, discuss the cover.
Yes, we must.
So
we must.
Issue 34, February 1988. It's £1.25 or 7.5 Deutschmarks to you.
It is. It's a measly 7.5 Deutschmarks. It reminds me of another cover that we've had with Zap.
What, the Beachhead 2 one?
Yeah. There's a similarity. Obviously, it's obviously leaning towards the Platoon game that we're going to talk about in this episode and everything else. But it's very similar to, I think it is similar to that.
It is. It's very similar. I hadn't twigged to that, but I'm just going to actually open that up right now, actually, and I'm going to have a quick look, because that was 1985. I think that was issue 4, wasn't it?
Yeah, an early one, yeah.
Yeah, it's very similar. It's very similar colours, greens and yellows, just flicking between the pair of them. Yeah.
And interestingly, what it isn't is an Ollie Frey version of the Platoon image, the classic image, which we'll talk about again later, but... It is just, this is a GI that's been shot and it's in kind of pain. GenericGI.com, I think.
Are you sure it's Barnes, isn't it? It says Barnes on his thingy, on his uniform.
Yeah. Well, it might be Barnes because he's got the big scar on his face, of course. So it could be Barnes, but Barnes doesn't get shot in that way, I don't think, in the film.
I don't think he's being shot. I think he's shooting. There's just blood on him. I don't think he's actually been shot.
He doesn't do that in the film at all, at any point, though.
No. Barnes is a Tom Berenger character, isn't he?
Yes, he's the evil maniac, but yes.
He really is, yes. Yeah.
Yes, he is.
So it's very yellow, it's very green. Well, not green, it's actually blues, more blues than greens, isn't it? It's more blues and...
Yeah,
sort of
very strange image,
greens.
actually. It's well drawn. I mean, it's the usual amazing Ollie Frey characterization of sort of agony and pain. I'm just not sure that that's the right character to choose for that kind of display of morality, but there you go.
No, it's a strange one, all right. But yeah,
it is a bit weird.
I didn't twig to the notion that it was very similar to episode 4, issue 4, or something,
yes,
but it is very similar. Yeah. It's even got the sort of people at the bottom kind of getting blown up as well in, looking in pain and everything like
Yeah,
similar
they've
to
kind
this.
of pixelated them out of this one, which is odd.
It is odd. I mean, unless they're sort of going for like, it's the film but in pixel version. So I'm not quite sure.
I don't know. I'm guessing there's some kind of it's a game. Or I don't know. It's interesting. There's probably some heavy detail about all of that, but I don't know. Maybe.
But what else can we? If you were to read this, you could have won a compact disc Ghetto Blaster, Graham. Compact disc Ghetto Blaster, courtesy of Hewson.
Yeah, and there's a lowdown of Amiga software, which is, it's always nice.
Yeah, and you could also have got some signed Jeffrey Archer books from Domark.
Yeah, Predator pull-out poster.
I know.
That's the kind of poster you want on your wall, isn't it, of a disgusting, crab-faced alien?
Well, it depends what it's pulling out.
Well, yeah, true.
If it's the Predator's pulling something out, then it's like, ooh, could be Billy. Could be pulling out Billy. No. I don't think anyone wants that on the wall.
No one wants to pull off Billy and have a poster of that. No one. Anytime.
No one wants that.
No, they don't.
No. Anyway, that went wrong somehow. As per normal. Let's move on. That's the cover anyway. It's Platoon. Platoon is on the cover. There's also mention of Hunter's Moon, Match Day 2, being the big hitters this month. So we'll be getting into them in the next few episodes. But anyway, that's that. Let's move on, shall we? Should we get into our first game?
Probably.
I think we should. Let's move into our first game. And it's the cover game. Straight up, straight in. Graham, take us on a tour of duty with Platoon.
I shall. This is a copyright Helmdale Films. That's the people that actually produced the actual Platoon film. The coding here is by Zach Townsend. You might remember him from Cobra. You probably won't, but that's that's what he did. Graphics by Andrew Slay and Martin McDonald. Title screen was Andrew Slay. Musician here, and this is an important one, is Jonathan Dunn. So this is a game based on the 1986 Oliver Stone movie of the same name. The film, the first of Oliver Stone's Vietnam War film trilogy, which is Platoon, Born on the 4th of July, and Heaven and Earth, is a harrowing account of the moral conflicts, the morale effects, and horror encountered by a platoon of young soldiers, in particular through the eyes of the soldier Chris Taylor, who in the movie is played by Charlie Sheen. And the whole squad is led by Platoon Sergeant Barnes, played by Tom Berenger, as you said, and his squad leader, Sergeant Elias, which is William Dafoe, as they work their patrols and missions near the Cambodian border in 1967, during, of course, the Vietnam War. The platoon is actually led by their inexperienced Lieutenant Wolf, which is played by Mark Moses in the film, but the interplay is generally about the notions of power, morality, insanity, and futility between the soldiers, the war itself, and their roles in all of that. It's based on the real experiences of Oliver Stone, who was the writer-director here, who was, of course, also a veteran of the Vietnam War. And the film is well known for its harrowing and uncompromising portrayal of war, violence, betrayal, confusion, culminating in many iconic and horrific moments, including the moment the betrayed and injured Sergeant Elias is gunned down from behind when trying to escape the Vietnamese soldiers, an iconic image used on both the promotional material for the film and the title screen for the Commodore 64 game. Okay, there's the backdrop. I can never really decide, and it was a dilemma at the time as well, obviously being a person that saw this film, where a game about such a complex political and military situation as the Vietnam War would kind of sit in the great scheme of things. And I suppose the message is the message here, and thankfully this game does not make light of any of the key issues around the war, but the jury is kind of out on whether the game based on the film that is based on real horrific events and the deaths is something that really serves a purpose. I genuinely don't know. And we'll sort of rattle around this kind of notion as we go through the game. I guess it's probably a debate for another time, really, because there's loads of games that are based on war. If we think of Call of Duty and a million other games around that. So I genuinely don't know where the morality of this game sits. But anyway, let's focus on what the game is and what it's about. So the Ocean game is a bit of a mixture of different game types as you progress through. I think the notion here is to play through the levels inspired by encounters and scenarios from the film. As you complete the levels, you kind of progress through the story. The game starts in the jungle. You and your squad of men, 5 in total, are retreating from a stronger hostile force. and need to find and cross a bridge and then destroy it. This sees you having to traverse the maze-like jungle environment looking for the explosives to destroy the bridge, so you can then thwart the pursuit. If you're successful, you and your squad will then set about finding and searching a Vietnamese village for a hidden tunnel entrance and a map to the tunnels themselves. Attempting to cross the bridge without the explosives will see you and your squad being killed by a Viet Cong VC soldier with a flamethrower, so don't do that.
Duly noted. Duly noted.
Each of your men has limited ammo and grenades, and you can switch between them with a press of the function keys on the C64. You control your soldier with the joystick, the fire button will shoot your weapon, and the spacebar will throw a grenade in this first sort of level. As you progress through the jungle, you will encounter Viet Cong soldiers, obviously, who will shoot at you, and there's also booby traps and tripwires that you need to sort of navigate and avoid. Each hit on you reduces your platoon morale and is logged as a hit for that soldier. 3 hits on any soldier, and they are killed in action, reducing your squad and your morale. If all of your squad is killed here, it's game over. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to sort of tackle the way the game plays sort of level per level, because there's different aspects and different graphics and different things per level. Mm-hmm. So it's not one game, one game type played over multiple levels. So the graphics, I think, for this level are pretty good, actually, and with a look and feel akin to a kind of combat school, mixed with things like Rast and Target Renegade. You can sort of see the lineage of other Zach Townsend games in here, such as Cobra and Batman as well, with this sort of side-scrolling, sort of horizontal scrolling action. I think it plays pretty well. Your main sprite is generally center screen with the jungle background graphics, which is lots of green and blue and yellow, flora and fauna. So that's the kind of environment that you find yourself in. The animations are pretty good all round. And there are some nice tricks, like going inside the village huts and the front wall disappearing, so you get kind of a sort of, you can see inside the building that you're in. That's quite a nice trick, that. The UI is very simple, with the top 2/3 of the screen showing the game action and the lower third giving key messages and the general status of your ammo. In fact, that area kind of links it to the film a little bit in terms of what you read and what you see. Obviously, the general status of your ammo and the morale and the squad hits and score are all down there in the UI. The score, I think, seems a bit obtuse with a game like this, but it's a game, I guess. I don't know. We'll come back to this idea of this kind of, the idea of a score being there. I'm not sure. I didn't quite get it, but anyway, we'll come back to that. The scrolling here in this section is all smooth. There's no issues, really, and the in-game music is really, really good. As with all the music in this game, Jonathan Dunn captures a sense of both melancholy and drive, and that's not very easy to do when you're creating this sort of thing. And it moves at a pace of urgency across the level. Remember, there's no sound effects in this game. It's all driven by the score and the visual action that you play. Okay, if you make it through that level, and that ain't easy, let me tell you. The next level of the game will load, if you ever get there. Yeah. Here, you and your remaining squad must navigate through a complex labyrinth of underground waterlogged tunnels looking for some key items, which are in fact a compass and some flare guns, and of course the exit. The game here is played out in a first-person type perspective as you scurry down the tunnels. Your view is split here into 2. The left is your POV, showing you a 3D version of the tunnel as you kind of go through the passages. On the right is your map, showing you a current position and routes. The map is actually slightly bigger than the area you have on screen, so when you get to the edge, it kind of goes to the next part of the map. Some of the tunnels are blocked, some of them lead to rooms containing supplies, which you must navigate while trying to find the 2 required flares minimum and the compass that you need. In addition to these items, there are also medkits, ammo, and supplies which you can use to heal and restock. Your path will always be challenged in this particular section by a variety of VC or Viet Cong soldiers that will appear and shoot at you. Some run in, some jump up from under the water in the bottom of the tunnels, etc. And when they do, you get a crosshairs, which you control with a joystick to aim at the enemy and shoot them before they shoot you. In this particular section, you can take 4 shots, but you only get 2 attempts at this level before it's game over. And the controls in this section are up will drive you forward, left and right will change your direction to the left and the right, obviously, or sort of look left, look right. And it's similar to Scarabaeus worked, I think. And if when the crosshairs appears, you move it with your joystick, and obviously you've got to sort of shoot with the fire button. I think the graphics in this section are very well conceived. They work pretty well. The 3D effect kind of works. The whole thing does feel very murky and like you're in a tunnel. It's kind of a sort of odd, dank effect to this in the color scheme and the way it works. It's a nice POV trick, essentially. Gives a nice FPS feel, and the enemy sprites, when they appear, pretty well drawn, and I actually think are pretty good. The level feels very, very claustrophobic, and the music, again, really adds to the atmosphere. So it's quite a nice, section 2 is quite nice. It's quite well conceived. If you escape those tunnels, and that's a big stretch, let me tell you by this point, but if you do,
Yep.
and this has got, I think this is harder than Combat School. This is such a crazy difficult game anyway.
In fact, Townsend, what do you expect? His army moves.
Yeah, exam moves, guys. So if you escape the tunnels, you're on to the next level. The next sequence sees you fending off a VC attack at night with machine gun fire. The VC soldiers gradually sneak towards your camp, and here you must keep a close eye for their movement and periodically launch flares, the ones you collected, that will illuminate the scene. That gives you a chance to see and shoot at them as they sneak upon you. If you don't shoot or spot them and shoot them in time, they will shoot at you. And again, too many hits, and you actually go back to the tunnel section in this, which is a nightmare, really, when you think about it. The attack keeps on going until you've kept the enemy at bay for long enough, and at this stage, out of all of them, I found this one of the hardest ones to do. If you could even make it through the other two.
Something.
Yeah, it's such a difficult game. I'm not sure that some of this is purely down to the movement of the crosshairs and the joystick, although that is particularly tough in this level. It's just generally tough anyway. The graphics are good here. They're a lot simpler than the previous levels. The idea of this works pretty well, and the illumination effect is quite nice, but thematically, and at this point, it starts to feel like they're running out of steam. Anyway, complete this. It's on to the next level, which is the next 2 levels, really, which are kind of the same thing over and over again. So after you've got through the tunnel, the hostile attack is hardly ever come as you hear the radio that a squadron of US Air Force is on the way to fly an airstrike with napalm bombs over the jungle area that you were located in. As it is impossible to call back the bombers, the only chance to survive is to find an appropriate shelter, but the whole place turns into a flaming inferno. There are 2 minutes left to find a way through the jungle to the shelter and eliminate Sergeant Barnes, who has lost his mind at this point and is responsible for the death of Private Elias, one of the good guys, obviously, from the film. And I didn't want to really put a lot of spoilers in. You should go and watch the film, but I'll come back to that anyway. The blockages of barbed wire, landmines, snipers, and VC soldiers, which the jungle now teams with, thwart you on your way. When I say thwart, basically make it impossible. On top of that, it's not clear which of the numerous junctions leads to the quickest route to the destination, and the compass on the right of the screen helps a bit to create a map, but the ideal way needs to be found by trying all the possible routes to the end. Not be able to ever do this. And the ammunition, of course, is also limited. That's not my experience because I never got this far. It's so hard and genuinely next to impossible, I think. And when you finally eliminate the crazy Sergeant Barnes, his shelter, out of which he covers with you, with MG fire and grenades, needs to be smoked out by 5 hits with hand grenades. These hand grenades can be found directly in the area. See, you've even got when you beat Barnes, and bear in mind, this is still within the 2 minutes. It's just stupidly difficult. If you win that fight against expectations, you ain't going to win it ever.
Nope.
You'll be informed that you will be relieved from your obligation honorably due to your suffered injuries and number of successful missions. A helicopter is thus sent out to get you. So that's essentially the game. It plays over those levels, and it's really, really, really difficult. I'd defy anyone to get through the tunnels, really, at this point. So anyway, okay, maybe people out there did. I think this is an unusual game. Graphically and hourly, there's a lot going for it, especially in the first and second levels. I think the levels are, more thematically linked to the film than following the exact plot, which I don't think would be really possible anyway. It does follow the basics of it, I guess, and I'm still unsure if this raises ethical issues or not. I like the first 2 levels a lot more than the remaining ones, and I think this is because you can see that they were struggling with what to do with some of it after those 2 levels. The third level actually is pretty weak, but very difficult, and the final levels are principally the same thing and incredibly hard. My personal feeling is that this game gradually becomes tone deaf, and that the interplay of morality becomes more and more tokenistic, given that you have a score count linked to the more you progress in the game, which means the more you kill. I'm not sure that the dynamic really works, as the killing of VC soldiers becomes more and more arbitrary and less morally challenging, while you are still punished in terms of morale by getting shot. It doesn't make any sense in that way. I don't know if this game really hits the mark of what the film was saying, and that's kind of obvious, really. It's a game based on a film, which is kind of harrowing. It certainly plays the mechanics of brutal conflicts as you run around shooting and being shot at, but it is a game, and it's certainly challenging, and it's a challenging license to take on, maybe even really an unnecessary one. I think the real winner here in all of this is the music, which is exemplary. Relative newcomer Jonathan Dunn has done an amazing job here capturing tone, mood, and melancholy, which does, at the very least, lead you through the game and make the experience feel less like Rambo and more thought-provoking. The presentation here is good, and the hooks into the film do work, and in combination might at least get someone to watch the film or consider the representations of conflicts, etc. I doubt it, but you never know. Maybe they did. It is at least not wholly ghoulish, which it could easily have been. So I'm conflicted with this. I like the notion, but not the implementation. I'd recommend everyone watch the film, though it is harrowing, and then that might set the tone for where this game sits in the overall thematic of everything. Outside of that, this game starts much better than it ends, and the graphics at times are genuinely brilliant, but also very weak. It's also worth checking out the music, but is this game a coherent whole? I don't know. It felt like it started better than it ended for me, and it's certainly, I don't know if it's tonally adrift from the film that it's trying to sort of portray in the license. Maybe it was a license that should not have been adopted and adapted into a game. Maybe, I don't know. What about you?
Yeah, it's I agree. It shouldn't have been. Why make a game out of Platoon? It's just don't. It's of all the licenses we've covered, where there are games, there are licenses you can see. James Bond, easy, make a game out of that. RoboCop, we'll see the Batman games, all these kind of licenses. I get it, be the hero, whatever sort of thing. Platoon, and then slap a score on it, and slap all these things about killing, real people for real conflict, and I don't know. I think the thing is with this is that it does then lead down into, as you rightly noted, subsequent games. And I personally switched off from a lot of those some time back. The more realistic, thematically realistic Call of Duty games, Medal of Honor games, I don't touch them very much anymore. And then because I feel that they are quite jingoistic, and they are quite gung-ho yeehaw America, even though when they're trying not to be, and also they're also trying not to be political, but they are political, and it just does my head in. It is what it is. Anyway, let's get back to this. Yes, it's another Zach Townsend game. Great production values, very good visuals mostly throughout, but the first couple of levels probably stand out, and great music throughout. So that's all good. It's just let down. If we take it as a game and put all the other stuff aside, it's his usual stupid difficulty levels and unfair happenstances that just happen on a regular occurrence that let playing this, make this more of a chore than it really should be. Getting through the opening jungle, it's not tricky to navigate. It's easy. It's easy to find your way around and move through it and find the explosives and stuff, but there's just enemies dropping from a tree straight onto your head. They leap over your bullets and into you. You take a hit every time, and sometimes they'll spawn straight onto you when you revive, and you'll take another hit. Tripwires are sometimes hidden behind scenery, and if you hit a tripwire, it's instant death. None of the 3 or 4 hits here, it's instant death for that Marine, which I get, obviously, yeah, okay, but it feels unfair. It feels punitive, like a lot of Zach Townsend stuff does. Then we have the tunnels. It's a good attempt to do a sort of proto-Doom, or maybe some Eye of the Beholder, shall we say, type thing. And it's technically, get me wrong, this is the tunnel sequence is the cleverest. It's very clever. But again, design
it's the best bit, I think.
Yeah, design decisions. But to play it, design decisions let it down. I don't know why they keep sticking your cursor to the bottom of the screen when you're moving, and then spawning enemies near to the top, because it takes ages to get towards them, and invariably you'll get shot. And that's just leave a cursor in the middle, or leave it where it was. Just change the controls to pushing forward to move. I don't need to move the cursor. Just leave it alone. I don't know why they're shoving it down the bottom. The nighttime section, yeah, it's boring, firing up flares and picking off the enemy as they edge towards you. But again, you noted, it's that old issue of joystick control crosshairs. It's just you can't move.
It's not good. I didn't like the last half of this game.
You can't move fast enough to get across the screen half the time to get your shots in when you get about 3 or 4 appearing at once across the screen. Same problem we had in Living Daylights. Similar sort of thing. So it's this problem. And like yourself, I didn't get to that last section. I'd kind of given up trying by that point. There are some interesting ideas here. And as a portmanteau collection of different types of gameplay, none of them are bad. There's some problems with each of them, but if you kind of put them to one side. But I don't know. I didn't find it that much fun to play. And I don't know. It's tricky. It's punitive. It's very nice sprites, very nice music, but it just has those usual issues with these games. And I also think that, as you have pointed out and rightly said, and I said at the beginning there, the notion of Platoon as a video game colours my approach to it.
It's problematic, isn't it?
I think it is.
It's not my imagination. It is a problematic thing.
I think it is. Yeah, more so than I have. Like I said, I have issues with more recent Call of Duty games, and Medal of Honor games and things like that. I don't play them anymore. Give me sci-fi, shooting stuff, aliens in the future, whatever, and I'm happy because it's not real. I can handle that. But when you put these kind of things where people really suffered and really went through hell and everything like that, and I get a bit like, oh, this is my entertainment. Films approach it in a different manner. You watch Platoon, there's no enjoyment's not the right word, is it, with Platoon? It is, it's a harrowing watch. And I guess that's what Oliver Stone wanted. But you're playing a game for entertainment, and there's a pull and a push here, and I don't think this quite works. I don't know. I mean,
it was the notion of the score that got me. I'm thinking, hang on a minute.
Yeah, you're right.
Hang on a minute. That should not be there.
No, it shouldn't. It shouldn't. Having a multiplier, having a score go up for the more Viet Cong shoot. Kind of weird. Just survive would be the point. Take the score out, and you may have a point. But it's 1980s video games, and they've got to have a score and things like that. And I suppose we look at things like Green Beret, which is fantastical but stupid, but whatever. And you have to kind of squint, and you can pull arguments like this in many different directions. But I don't know, Platoon, for all its good qualities, in the fact that if you strip all this out and put it in another game, you probably have a much better title where you'd probably be more forgiving of it. But because it's in Platoon, it's like, it's just, I don't know. I couldn't get on with it. Tickled me the wrong way, should we say.
No, I agree. I mean, the film is a big question mark over the morality of humanity and people in conflict.
Yeah.
If you add a score count and running around just arbitrarily killing everybody that moves, kind of defeats the purpose of how that might affect you morally. And I think the game does not tread that territory very carefully at all.
Yeah. I mean, there's recent games like something like Spec Ops The Line, which actually questions why people play these kind of games, these kind of shoot 'em up war games and things like that. And for those who haven't played it, if you do like modern games, then Spec Ops The Line was a 360 PS3 2010, 2011 game, and I recommend you actually have a play of that, because while it may look like a standard third-person over-the-shoulder shooter, it's actually a treatise on why do we play war games. It's a very good game as well. It's quite interesting. Which
is what this purported to be, I think in its attempt.
It's not, though. And maybe it couldn't be back in 1988 on a 8-bit computer, which then begs the question of why do it? Well,
that's my big debate, really, is that this probably should never have been. It shouts that a film came out and a license came up, and Ocean were milking licenses at every turn, and this was just a film that was popular, so license, game, inevitable consequence. Not a good thing, not a good idea.
No, it's not. There we go. That's Platoon. It's got 94% though in the magazine. They loved it.
No, they loved it. They raved about it. But
they did.
They've never been to Nam. What do they know? Nam.
That's not Nam. Right, there we go. That's Platoon. Let's move on to something not quite so heavy. And that is a budget title. This is, Graham, Super G-Man.
Woo!
Yeah, well, what can one say about Super G-Man? Anyway, let's just, what does that name mean? What does G stand for? It's gravity? Why is he super?
I think it is gravity.
Is it Super Gravity Man? Or is it the guy from Half-Life? He was the G-Man, wasn't he?
Yeah, it could be. Or some kind
Early
of gangster.
Adventures of Half-Life guy. Whoever he is. Why is he? Anyway, it's none of this explained. It's you've got very rudimentary instructions that accompany this. And when I say rudimentary, I mean rudimentary. You got to traverse 10 levels of the lunar landscape. You have to find the base in each one and fly into it. Just fly into it. To be transported to the next one. If you go through all 10 levels, you can escape. That's it. You've been trapped on the moon or something, I think. I don't know. There's not much to this. Why are you here? What are you escaping from? What is any of this for? Questions like this are not for Super G-Man. Those kind of questions are for other games. Games with fancy pants stories and rationales for their being. Super G-Man cares not for them. All he's bothered with is flying fast, using his jetpack, and shooting stuff. Super G-Man is a man alone. Super G-Man is also pretty crap. But, we'll get to that. This is from the mind of Mike Clark. Not the Mike Clark, is it? It's a different Mike Clark.
No, different Mike Clark.
Yeah. Okay, and it's got music by Mr. David Whittaker, which even by Whittaker's standard this is really half-assed and pretty bad, the music in this. This is not a great outing for him. I found this a joyless, pointless exercise in futility. Personally, Super G-Man. You control Super G-Man. You are a single-colour sprite, a jetpack kind of guy, and your job is to blast from left to right and find the base in the level. That's it, really. That's all you got to do. Some shooting, there's some things to pick up. You have to find it. You got to find it within a time limit. For if the time limit runs out, it is game over for Super G-Man. He will be Super Game Over Man. Super G-Man can collect 2 things. More fuel for the jetpack, and some bullets with which to shoot any enemies that may beset him, because Super G-Man is rocket-powered. Controls are left and right to speed up and slow down. Fire to shoot, and down to thrust upwards. Yes, down to go up.
Complicated.
Stupid, very stupid. I'm not sure why this is not up to thrust upwards. I don't know. Maybe Super G-Man cares not for standard controls. Maybe they were trying to simulate some physics in that blasting the jetpack downwards will force you upwards. Whatever the reason, doesn't work. Not really, because your brain don't. You can't. When you need to go up, you press up and don't do anything. A collision with the hills of the landscape that scrolls beneath you, or any enemies or landmines, will kill you instantly. And whilst you have as many lives as you like, each collision will whittle 10 seconds off your time. So too many deaths will lead to the end of Super G-Man. The UI at the bottom of the screen shows your score, the high score, the amount of fuel left, and the amount of ammo. And the game action takes place in the top 3/4 of the screen. UI at the bottom. It's your standard usual affair. It's arcadey, and it's pretty simple. That's about it. There really is absolutely nothing worth playing this for. It's a game way out of time. It feels really simplistic even for a budget game at this point. If this had come out in 1984, people would have probably liked this. But even by 1984, we'd had Hero, and Hero's about a guy with a sort of jetpack thingy. But it's that you're exploring tunnels and caverns, and we espoused how good Hero was when we came across it. This has none of that, and this is 4 or 5 years later. It's rubbish. It's 1988. Things like Kickstart 2, Thrust, Spore, Hero, Park Patrol, they're all out at budget price. They're in the world. This is really simplistic, and it wears thin very quickly. There's very little, if anything, to bring you back for more. Super G-Man, what did it get? It got 23%. That's being generous. There's very little game here. And the controls are pretty crappy. The graphics aren't particularly great. They're a mishmash of multicolour sprites, scrolling backdrops, flat terrain. It's just a bit of a mess, and with awful music. No, it's a Codemasters game, isn't it? And I think this is a poor showing from Codemasters. If I'd have bought this for even for £2, I would have been very sad. This is not a Sunday afternoon game. This is a Sunday best draw game at the very best I can say about it. What about you? Did you enjoy any of your time with Super G-Man?
Interestingly, I had a bit of a different experience with this. How weird is that? I found this, obviously, it's a really simple game, really daft controls, kind of in a weird moon buggy-ish kind of vibe, its own kind of logic. But this is unquestionably similar to Jetpack Joyride in many, many ways. And it may be a simplified version. So obviously you've got to get the end of the level in time. You've got to collect stuff. You've got to avoid the enemies. The graphics are not going to set you on fire, obviously. Very simple sprites, basic sounds. It's all very basic, but it's kind of pretty addictive. And
really?
And there's, there's a couple of easy wins in this. If you die in the game, you start from that position, okay? And it takes no time to master. So you kind of want to do a bit better. If you took the timer away and added collectible coins and upgrades, well, you'd have Jetpack Joyride. And that's one of the most successful modern mobile games of all time. So I think it kind of shows that this is perhaps just a game with some of the logic that's just simply too far ahead of the time. Even the price is oddly ahead of its time, given the nature of the game. This was a mobile game at $1.99 that had all of that stuff in the kind of vein of Jetpack Joyride. Nobody would question it. I think that just, if you took that timer off, because of the way the graphic works, even when you run across the ground level, this had such a vibe of games that are mobile friendly later on. So I think it's perhaps punished for being too simple, and I think it's just not. The world's not ready for this kind of game at this point, and the timer is stupid, and the controls are crap, and all that kind of stuff is bad for this. But put this game on a mobile device. Put this game on a mobile device 20, 30 years later. Simply take away the timer and add the idea that you're just collecting coins so you can upgrade your jetpack, and you've got Jetpack Joyride, and the graphics are very similar. I don't mind Jetpack Joyride. I found this quite addictive for a £2 game. I know it's got 23% in Zapped, and it's nothing amazing, but for some reason I find it pretty compelling to go out again and again and again. Weird, I know. But I like Jetpack Joyride, so I'm kind of biased.
I like Jetpack Joyride. I just thought that this was... I didn't get on with this. I can see what you're saying, and I guess there is that element to it. I think it may have been better if they'd have taken... I just found the sort of logic to it, trying to find that base and just flying into it. And
yeah, it's stupid.
And stuff.
But it's £2 worth of stupid, and I don't think that... I just think that the way it looked and the way it played and the way it's very, very, very simple and basic. But if you stuck this side by side with Jetpack Joyride and just it's two minor tweaks and you've got principally the same game. I found that really interesting.
If they took away the ability to took away your movement speed control,
and I found the downward thing to go upwards. I don't know why, but I found it perfectly acceptable.
All right, no, I found it odd.
It didn't. But which is odd because you're normally a bit of a upside downy, back to fronty joystick person. For me, I found it perfectly okay. Once I got used to it, I was okay. I don't know. I didn't hate this game. And when I started playing it, I kind of did. And then when I kind of realized what it is, which is just we've played a couple of games. There was a game a while ago where I hated it, and it was just a game where you were just doing the same thing very quickly over and over again. You died and you did it again. You died and you did it again. I can't remember which one it was now.
What, Hercules?
Yeah, it might have been Hercules, something like that. And it reminded me of that kind of logic. It was just like, you know what? I died. I'm going to go for it. I died. I'm going to go for it. I died. I'm going to go for it. And because you start exactly where you left off, it has a mobile game mentality about this. It just genuinely does. And I think that's, experience later down the line of playing games like that on mobile devices kind of made me think, actually, you know what, I could play this for a while. And I think it's just a mindset change. Back then, Zap didn't know what the hell a mobile game might be, and wait, if I'm stood at a bus stop and I just want to quickly dive into something. But nowadays, my thought processes are a bit jaded by it. I think actually I could probably play this on a mobile device. So
yeah, I get it. I think you need to change quite a lot, and you need to obviously build a lot more. I think the problem is there's just not a lot to this in amongst not in just kind of the mobile sort of mentality, but the 10 levels are there's no change in what you do. It's just, I don't know. It didn't appeal to me.
I get it. I think it's just horses for courses. I didn't hate it. I think that's the key thing. I didn't hate it. And I think when I played it, I was just like, I've played this kind of thing before, and I didn't hate that either. So weird. I know it's weird, but it isn't a great game. It really isn't, but it's £2 as well. And I'm thinking, you know what? If I'd have paid £2 on a mobile device right now for a jetpack joyride variant that had this kind of logic, would I be complaining about it? Probably not.
Maybe
not.
All right. Well, there you go. Super G-Man splits the Zap to the Past team. Who knew what Super G-Man could do? Let's move on anyway. Got another guy to talk about in a minute. Let's move on to him, shall we? And Graham, we have the full price adventures of Mr. Andy Capp.
We do. This is developed by Blitter Animations. I don't know what that means or who that is, but the coding behind this is Tim McCarthy. The graphics are Nigel Brown. The musician, according to the game, is Musicon Design. Apparently that's somebody called Jason C. Brooke, according to Lemon. I don't know if that's all the same person. And by the way, just as a note and a bit of a cards on the table, the original game had some bugs, which was some flickering of some of the sprites, and there was some crashing as well. The version that I played, which was a Remember version, had those bugs fixed. So I played a bug-fixed version of this, just so you know. Andy Capp is a British comic strip created by cartoonist Reg Smythe. It was in the Daily Mirror and the Sunday Mirror newspapers from 5th of August 1957. Originally a single-panel cartoon, it was later expanded to multiple panels. Andy is a working-class figure who never actually works and lives in Hartlepool, which is a harbour town in County Durham in northeast England. The comic strip plays out multiple scenarios from a series of locations, principally the pub, the street, or the inside of the Capp's residence at 37 Durham Street. And Andy and his wife Flo are always on the verge of poverty, with Andy not working, claiming unemployment benefit, or the dole, as it was known, and getting drunk and generally being something of a layabout smart mouth. Though somehow much loved, I'd never found it either funny or interesting. Indeed, some of the themes, tones, and messaging over the years would now be considered pretty toxic. Either way, this is a game based on that character and cartoon strip. Okay. According to the blurb, it's Monday morning and Flo is demanding your dole check. If you're as big a skiver as Andy Capp, you've got a real problem on your hands. You'll need every ounce of your northern charm to find out who has made off with it. That's your dole check, so it's been stolen, I guess. Extracting helpful information from your friends will take a drop of Dutch courage, which is, in modern parlance, booze, but neither of the pubs will give you credit. You have to use whatever's left from the last dole check to buy a paper, check the racing pages, and slide off to the bookies, hoping for a winner. From the comfort of your own armchair, you can punch the rent man, scrounge from the barman, blow kisses to your girlfriend, try to sneak off with Flo's handbag with no danger to your lazy self. And in the words of the game box, Andy Capp is a fully icon-driven arcade adventure featuring all your favourite characters from the cartoon strip, including Andy, Flo, Chalky, the rent man, the barman, the policeman, and more. Exciting. The further adventures of the case inlay say, it's Monday morning and you're in a flat spin. Flo's demanding your dole check. She'll be off to her mother's if she doesn't get it soon, and who'll do the washing up then? It sort of seems to lose the idea that it's lost a little bit in the text, I think, that your check has been your dole check, your unemployment benefit check has been stolen. Zap obviously mentioned that, but it's mentioned in the first blurb, but not really in the second one. It says again, you'll need every ounce of your northern wile and charm to raise the cash to survive one way or another. Raise the cash to survive one way or another. Maybe you can extract a quid or two from your friends or try your luck at the horses, but wherever you do, steer clear of the rentsman and local copper. They're both after you with a vengeance. Watch your favourite cartoon characters come alive as you duck and dive, dodge and weave your way through a week in the life of Andy Capp. So that's the inside inlay of the cassette. Okay. Exciting, isn't it? All that. Exciting. It's not, though, is it? Nearly. It's not at all. It's not. So the game then. In the game, you have a week to wander around interacting with people and places, looking to raise the sufficient funds to appease flow and find out who has indeed stolen your dole check. In order to ease this process, Andy needs to be drunk. So you need to head to the pub for a pint and become sufficiently inebriated to gain the Dutch courage required to ask those pertinent questions. Your drunkenness is measured by your alcometer displayed on the screen. As you wander around going in and out of places, you will bump into some of the familiar characters from the comic strip. You can choose to talk or fight using the icon action buttons on screen. And some of the characters, the police, rent collector, are after Andy, so you've got to kind of avoid those. You can also bet on horses to try and raise money, but there is always the risk of losing your money. You don't start with a lot. I think it's £8 you start with.
£8, yeah.
If you fight, you stand the risk of losing your wallet, and you also can possibly end up in court eventually and having to pay large fines, none of which is conducive to you finding your dole check or the money for Flo, your wife. In the order of the game, you can blow kisses to stop the other non-player characters in the tracks, but your kisses are limited. If you run out of your kisses, or if you run out of your alcometer, then if it goes empty, that's it, game over. The icons across the bottom from left to right, you have a wallet where you can move money in and out. You can choose to speak and use the controls of this is stupid, but you can basically use these icons across the bottom of the screen to interact in a kind of crap point and click. So it's another pointless and click wandathon. So you can choose your wallet, you can speak, so you can have conversations, you can fight, you want to fight, and there's action commands, which is pick up and do things and blow kisses and turn to enter buildings, and it's just, it doesn't matter what you can do with your icons because the game's shit. Anyway, so the graphics in the game are pretty much driven by the comic strip aesthetic. There are decently well-drawn and animated main characters on the whole. The backgrounds are very, very simple, very black and white. Again, trying to capture the aesthetic of the comic strip, and I guess it kind of works in the context of the game. But it makes for a really dreary gameplay experience. Indeed, the key issue here for me is the thematic of the game. Playing a drunken, unemployed layabout, scrounging for money and getting into trouble with the police seems like a really obtuse formula for a fun game. Add to that the dull, colourless game environment and awkward situations, coupled with the icon controls, and it ain't no treat to play. The music doesn't help with a dreary, and I mean dreary, rendition of Antonin's Dvorak's New World Symphony, so the Hovis theme.
Which is what I've referred to it as.
The Hovis music. It glumly draws its way to your ears as you plod endlessly around this bleak, colourless world. It's depressing. This game's depressing, all said and done. Tell you what, it isn't fun. It's no fun for this. And while I don't get the jokes of Andy Capp anyway, this game neither entertains or enlightens. It's a dull game about a dull thing made in a dull way with dull graphics and dull sound. It's dull. And I did not like it, any item of it. What about you?
Yeah, what an odd thing this is. This must be the singularly most depressing game I have played for the podcast, without a shadow of a doubt. I remember the Andy Capp comic strip and the short cartoons, and it was supposed to be a bit working class laugh. But playing as Andy in a life on the doll simulator in a dreary grey northern English town is so bleak. So bleak. I don't think there's anything wrong with the game as it is. I mean, it's like you said, it's a wander around, do stuff with icons-a-thon, and it works, I guess. I thought the animation and graphical representation of Andy and various characters and the world itself, I thought they were pretty well done. They were actually quite a really good facsimile of the comic strip. They look good. Andy's well animated. And they've really captured the look of the cartoons in the comic. By God, it's depressing. Wandering around the streets on a grey Monday morning with £8 in your pocket, waiting for the pub or the bookies to open so you can try and work out who stole your doll packet. Christ on a bike. In the middle of the 80s, this would have been like holding up a mirror to so many people in society.
Yeah. Boring.
There's long stretches of the game where you do not see anyone, just trudge around the grey streets while that tune, the Hovis tune, burbles along in the background, and the awful, moribund emptiness of this kind of existence is almost too much to bear. To top it all off, the game ends when you sober up, which is what I took that to be.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
because
pretty
becoming
much.
sober and realising the futility of his existence is the end of Andy Capp. Only by staying drunk and, inebriated and unaware can he keep on going. I was not sure what to expect with this, but the most depressing thing I have played in some time, and not because it's bad, but because of what it is and what it's about and what it's like to be an unemployed alcoholic whose only solace is in gambling and drinking.
Yeah,
Bleak.
totally, yeah.
Bloody bleak. It's all grey. It's all depressing. Just long
It's not
stretches
funny, though. It's not. Give me a good example of funny from it.
There isn't any. I got in a fight. I got thrown at one point. I got thrown into jail because I didn't have £20 to pay the fine. It's like it's just awful. It's just a weird. I don't know. It's like if they made a film. It's like I made a game about Yoz or Use. Made in 80s. Bleak northern working class, no job, no prospects, no anything. Stay drunk. Because it's the only way you can bear up to life. I mean, Christ, how did that pitch get through?
Yeah, and this is not a character that is like a massively warming character that you kind of warm to. Back in the day, Andy Capp was a pretty violent, wife-beating misogynist. So
yeah, he was, and I think wasn't to some extent. I do believe that Sid the Sexist in Viz was based on the sort of
totally.
Andy Capp style of the thing.
Like it needed it. There's some of the earlier comic strips. Obviously, it changed massively over time, as these things do. Part of it was that he was in trouble with the police because he was a wife beater and a violent person. Yeah. It's a really strange thing to make a game from, all said and done.
It really
the second
is.
Strange thing to make a game from in this episode.
I know. Another bleakdom. God, this is, weird. So weird. I came away from this going, Jesus Christ. I don't even know what to make of it, but...
Does not do a lot for the tourism trade for the northeast of England.
1988 one. Come here, it's grey. People get in fights and get drunk just to actually exist.
Yeah.
Wow. There you go. Episode 76. Moving on a high.
Heavy.
Indeed. Let's move on. We've got one game left for this section. Hopefully, it can't be any stranger. Let's have a look.
It's not as depressing as that, I'm sure.
No, it's not. It can't be. Let's move on. So let's have a look. Lifeforce is the next one. I was wondering whether this one is going to be based on the film. I really was when I saw it.
Thank God it's not. There'd be a lot more boobs in it if it was.
Yeah. Oh, but it's not. Anyway, Lifeforce, $9.95. Nuclear-powered flexible robot caterpillars. What could possibly go wrong with that idea?
Everything could go wrong with
that. Everything. Nuclear-fueled flexible robot caterpillars. Let's say that again. Nuclear-fueled flexible robot caterpillars, FRCs. Anyway, for reasons unknown, mankind has decided to have all its power generated by one huge power station in orbit and transport the fuel around this power station. We built nuclear-fueled flexible robot caterpillars. I don't know why. Anyway, all was peachy until it was not. A bug in the system, probably one of those caterpillars, has turned the whole thing to shit, mutating all the computer systems, turning them sentient, and worst of all, has made the FRCs go berserk and take over the entire system. Only a few random alien things can exist in this power station now, as everything else is killed by the roaming FRCs, and so we have a real problem in getting power down here. This, Graham, all happened in 1998.
Well,
remember that?
I was there and it probably did.
Yeah, that was some year. Anyway, fast forward to 2010 and Project Lifeforce is initiated. Sounds good. What's Project Lifeforce? Well, Project Lifeforce entails you in a tank.
That makes sense.
That's it. It doesn't sound quite as impressive when you say it like that. That's it. Our brightest and best minds over 12 years came up with you in a tank. That was it. That's all they could come up with.
Not good.
No, sent up to the power station to destroy the FRCs and harvest their sweet, sweet nuclear-fueled heads. That's what you've got to do. And thus we have Lifeforce. So, what is this game? The game is viewed from the top down. It starts with no real title screen. It's kind of just got the game screen. and pressing fire lets you know the game is beginning because it tells you that on the UI at the bottom. The game is starting, or it says something. The game is beginning.
It does. At least you know.
At least you know. Your tank materializes on screen in the sort of play area at the top, and you control it with a joystick, and it's 8 directions. So it's top down, move around, There are 8 FRCs to collect. On the 3 levels of the game, you've got 3 cities to move through. And these FRCs are handily marked on the radar that takes up part of the UI at the bottom of the screen. There are some other bits of info here on the UI, such as the number of escape pods. I'll come to these in a moment. Shields, smart bombs, and homing missiles, or seekers as they're called here, that you have in your tank. There's also an icon for your laser. And if this runs out, it will switch to stun mode, which is so stupid. I mean, they've sent you up in a crap tank. It took 12 years to send you up in a crap tank that runs out of...
A crank.
Yeah, it's literally what it is. It's just awful. And below this laser icon is the number of reactors you have collected in that level. So how many caterpillar heads, basically. On the right is the word head, which I think tells you what you are looking for. I'm not quite sure. Just says head.
Don't question it.
There's your score there, and there's the number of lives you have left, which is weird as well, but I'll get to the lives in a bit. So you move slowly about the landscape. Your job is to track the caterpillars that you can see on the radar. But you've got to be careful because a single contact with these things and it is game over. Because should you die, you have to have an escape pod handy to blast out in, and only then will you get to use another of your lives. So if you get hit, I don't know, I never managed it. You're supposed to blast out in an escape pod and then you can use one, but I never managed it, and it was just game over instantly. I don't know why you have lives or whether you actually have an escape. I don't know. I tried jabbing at the relevant key. I think it's the F7 key, but it never worked, or F1, whatever. Anyway, these caterpillars, they move around the landscape in long character-shaped lines. Think snake, I guess, is a good way of sort of saying they've got a long tail and they move, the head moves and the body moves, and it's that kind of shape as they move around. They'll go off screen and you've got to track them down. And what you've got to do first of all is you've got to blast all the tail parts off them. So all the parts that make the tail of the caterpillar, you've got to shoot all them. If you do that, it will make the head stop, and then you can move over it to collect it. You must do this for all 8 roaming caterpillars, and if you do, then you can proceed to the next trickier city. Enemies appear. So they just materialize and they come after you and whittle down your laser until it's only good for stunning them for a short time in your crap tank, your crank. So this is all stupid, basically. You just give me a gun that shoots properly. The stun power-up still destroys the caterpillar body parts, though, so at least that's something. However, you can get power-ups, and this is one of the nicer features of the game. The landscape, in all its bas-relief glory, can be destroyed, and hidden behind some sections of walls are the homing missiles and smart bombs, etc., that can be used with a quick press of the relevant function key. It's quite a nice touch, that, blasting the walls, blasting things so you can move through and make it a bit more open. It makes exploring the world worthwhile as you track down the moving targets of the FRCs. And that's about it. It comes from CRL. I've no idea who made it. There's no credits or anything. It's just a CRL game. The visuals are a little medium res bland. They're just medium res and they're a bit bland. And the sprites, both you and the enemies, they're pretty plain and they're pretty uninteresting. There's not a lot of work gone into the visuals on this. The scrolling, unfortunately, is also quite jerky. And by quite, I mean very. And this really does hurt the eyes after a while. The sound effects and the music are both rudimentary. And everything about this game, it feels like a CRL game, because that's what it is. We've seen these kind of look from CRL. We've seen other games from them. That one where you had to complete the 12 mini games to shoot down the space station, I think the other week, so on. It looks like a CRL game. I'm pretty sure that one was a CRL game.
Yeah, similar, yeah.
They all have this kind of look, this kind of bas relief, this kind of chunky sprites, not particularly very well shaded. They just have that kind of look and feel, jerky scrolling. It's not a bad game, this. There's some nice ideas scattered throughout it, but it's really what it comes down to. It's just dull to look at, and it's not very interesting to play. Don't have a gun that runs out. Let me shoot stuff constantly. Oh, especially if you're going to constantly spawn enemies at me. Or just don't have that. Let me just have to track down the FRCs, which are an enemy and a threat on their own. Then you've got a quite nice idea. This should be fun. And if this was a little faster, you had more interesting weapons to play around with, some more different, more interesting power-ups and some more interesting level design, it could have been an interesting take on the 360-degree shooter, because that's what it is, really. But as it is, it just never really rises above adequate. What did it get? It got 58%. Yeah, high 40s, low 50s, pretty much where I put it. If I had to say this, the review would be, it's CRL through and through. It's like if you cut it open, it just reads like CRL, like through a stick of rock. And that's what this looks and feels like. It feels like a CRL game. It's an interesting premise, and you're tracking down these kind of snake-like things, but I don't know. There's something just missing. It's just a bit bland and just a bit dull. But it's okay. It's not bad. It's plainly average. What about you? What did you think to it?
What a horrible looking thing this is. Horrible blocky sprites, weird attempts at base relief in green and grey.
Yep. It's not
jerky scrolling, Adrian. Jerky scrolling. I don't like jerky scrolling.
What register should they use, Graham? What register?
DO1 bloody 6. Goodness me. No, not on my watch. No. This is dull. This game's dull. It's just dull.
It is dull.
Even if it had good scrolling, it'd be dull, but it's not. It's got judder, jerky scrolling. I'm not exactly sure how they manage that as well, really, because with the appropriate VIC-2 chip register, that's rendered, unnecessary. Anyway, it plays like every other maze tank game. We've come across a few of these. There's one we played a while ago. I forget which one it was, where we complained that we had a load of enemies attacking us all the time.
Is that the one where you had to line up the mirrors? Yeah,
the mirror game, whatever it was called. Anyway, so it's kind of got that kind of vibe. We said at the time, there's kind of a Tron Tanks vibe. This is not Tron Tanks vibe, though, with this one. If you imagine that with all the fun, speed, and excitement removed, then you'd be getting close to the mark. This is quiet. It's a quiet game, isn't it? It's apart from the odd, sound effect, very quiet.
It's very quiet.
Very dull and very uninteresting. And it doesn't really do anything for me at all. It's a full price game. I mean, goodness me.
I know, yeah.
£10 whole pounds. Yeah, minus the 5p. You're talking a tenner here. And it was a mid-range review for the Zappers. They kind of gave it 58%. They were like, that maybe, it belies the graphics. Get past the graphics. There's a good mappers game in here. You can map all you want. It's like nobody wants to do that crap. Come on. Be honest about it. Nobody wants... There's loads of games out there that are better than this, and certainly that we've played. So I didn't find this compelling. I know Zap did, but I didn't. I didn't get into it. I thought it was pretty lame. And there's loads of other games that do this 360 sort of exploration of an environment. Parallax, for example, even, with the base relief graphics, that is just better than this in every possible way. This is pants. This is crap in pants. This is someone who just shit themselves at a theme park.
It's not that bad.
It is. It's not good. It's not good. It's a wander around an empty maze with a tank. Okay, I get that. But Atari did this with the 2600 many moons before this. So add something extra to it. What have you got? Show me what you've got with that, with the extras. There's nothing here.
Nuclear-powered flexible robot caterpillars, Graham. I've told you
haven't. No, it's dull. It's dull. This is not shiny and bright and new and interesting.
No, God, nothing like that, no.
But more importantly, this is not worth £10 of your money. Lifeforce.
It's not.
If it had have been based on the film, it would have featured Matilda May's boobs. Maybe that's worth a tenner, I don't know. This ain't, though. Crap.
No, it's not. It's really not.
Crap. Egg.
Jay Derrick did the music, by the way. That's the only credit I could find for it. So
Maybe that's a good part. But dog egg. Dog egg. No. That's my answer to that.
Okay. Oh, there we go. That's I don't know if it gets any better after we come back, but Christ on a bite, these games are odd this week. That's our first 4. We've got another 4 to come later on, but right now we're going to take a quick break because I don't really know what to say about them. Bleak all the way through. Just a bleak half.
Yeah.
I think we need something to cheer us up. So we're going to go away, cheer ourselves up, and then come back where we will talk about singles. I should be so lucky, Graham. I should be so lucky.
You should be so bloody lucky.
We should be, sort of thing. We'll be back in a bit where we'll look at singles for February 88. If we haven't bleaked you out, we'll hopefully stick around and we'll see you in a bit.
Exactly. Enjoy your bleak end.
The novel Escape from the Commodore 64 by David Hearn is out now. Growing up in the 80s is a chore for Sarah, who feels misunderstood by her parents and badgered by Reese, her bothersome brother who incessantly prattles on about his treasured computer games. When Reese tells her one of the games tried to pull him inside the computer, she laughs off his fanciful fib. She waggles the joystick to disprove his fairy tale and is pulled into the computer. Now trapped in games she'd never had any interest in playing, how can she possibly beat them? With the help of feisty Nell, another trapped player, can Sarah find her way back home, or is it game over? An evil madman, a hostile planet, bloodthirsty robots, a never-ending throng of karate experts, and relentless digital soldiers will do their best to ensure Sarah never escapes. Available from Amazon and all good online retailers, find out if there's a way out of the beige bread bin of betrayal for Sarah in Escape from the Commodore 64.
Are you keeping up with the Commodore? Yes, the Commodore is keeping up with you.
And we are back. As promised, we've got singles from February 1988, precisely 34 and a half years ago, I suppose. What was going on? So the first week, February, it's a 4-week month. Number one singles we've got for the first week, I Think We Are Alone Now by Tiffany.
I think we're alone now.
We've spoken about this at length, haven't we? We've
done it a few times now. It's actually in the movie Cape Fear. That was an interesting extra I thought I'd throw in.
Is it really in Cape Fear? Whereabouts?
Yeah, because when Max Cady is feeling threatened, I think he says, I think we're alone now. I think he says it too, actually, but I'm pretty sure it's in there.
Oh, well, there you go.
So, good film.
Yes, good film.
Horrible, but good.
Bleak. In keeping with the episode, bleak.
In keeping with the episode, bleak.
For the next 3 weeks, though, it was I Should Be So Lucky by Kylie Minogue.
Yes, the Stock Aitken and Waterman machine pumps out one of its bona fide mega hits. And Pete Waterman constructed an entire bullshit narrative around the whole song. Something around Kylie going, I want a really big hit, and him going, you should be so lucky. That never happened at all. I think Kylie went into a studio and sang some part of the song, and Pete Waterman's just started ejaculating £1 coins painfully and with a lot of stretching and grasping and pushing.
That's the worst kind of gallstones ever.
Exactly. He just started ejaculating pounds like, You're right, Pete. Oh my God.
You got the gush. No, it's the cash.
They're covered in some kind of powder. It's awful, but they do look very new. Anyway, that's
not the Queen's face.
That's how that song came about. It's horrible, really, isn't it? It's awful.
Dreadful. It's a dreadful story. It's one he passes down to his grandkids. He actually dramatizes it for them every Christmas.
He replays it every Christmas at the Christmas table. Did he ever tell your kids about the time that I started spunking £1 coins? You didn't, Pete, but please, for the love of God, don't tell us that we're now 10 years in. Absolutely.
He fills the turkey with the £1 coins, grabs it and just squeezes it, shooting them out of its anus.
Everything about the previous 2 minutes of our chat has been gross. Just to warn you now. Really gross.
Oh, I should be so lucky.
Yes.
And don't forget as well that the weird, strange video that they made for Top of the Pops, that was only shown on Top of the Pops, which essentially is Kylie Minogue getting in a car, driving round in the back and singing it. She's actually driven around by Calibos.
She is driven around by Calibos. Calibos. It is Calibos. He does deserve a break after being horrifically malformed in Clash of the Titans.
How's he changed gears?
Don't ask that question because...
Which hand gets cut off?
It's not his hand that he uses. It's very dexterous and it's gross.
He has a tail, doesn't he?
And that's why you have to make sure you get a good disinfectant wipe. Just wipe the inside of that can, especially the gear knob, or put him in an automatic car, automatic, because you're going to be wiping some stuff off you don't want to talk about, and for some time it's gross.
You don't want Calibos and manual.
This entire so far, this has been a very ejaculative episode in this terms of the music. It's quite gross, really, in every way that it can be.
It is. Shall we get out of?
For Christ's sake, move on, because Calibos come is not something I would have thought I'd talk about. But let's move on, quick, fast.
Right. Singles then. All right, 7th of February. In at number 20 is The Tower of Strength, which is euphemistic, considering what we've talked about, by The Mission.
Yeah, it's a good track. Very jingly jangly, but I like this one. So
it is. It is the first single off the upcoming second proper Mission album that had the EP one out, first chapter out. So that's The Children. We'll no doubt get to that at some point this year. Supposedly this was a song written about the Eskimos. Not to Inuits, but this was who were the Mission's travelling fan base. That's what they were called.
Okay.
Although I've also read that Hussey said this was also about Blue Nun, the drink, because it's what kept him going, which he consumed a lot of, yes.
Okay.
And was his tower of strength what kept him going. There was a according to Wikipedia, there's a scathing review in The NME by Barbara Ellen. She described the song as pompous and facile as everything else the mission had produced, since having their fingers prized away from Eldritch's infinitely more stylish skirts. Ooh,
Ouchie.
I know, but the NME and Melody Maker never particularly liked the mission. I don't think, recalling back.
Clearly, I mean that review says it all, doesn't it? I mean, it's a bit ouchy, isn't it? It's not that bad. It's a really good track, but it does explain why the mission and the Sisters of Mercy were very different acts on very different trajectories.
If I also told you as well that this was produced by John Paul Jones of Led Zeppelin, so there's supposedly there's elements of the Kashmir.
Yeah, I can sort of get that. Yeah.
We'll get to the children when children get to it. Because I have thoughts on that album, but
you do
not for today. Not for today.
Not for today.
In at number 51 was Two Hearts, not the Phil Collins track, the Cliff Richard track.
Hey, this is not about Doctor Who, is it?
Don't think so. I didn't really look at the lyrics, but I didn't hear much about Doctor Who in there.
The song was dreadful in every way that a song could be.
It was. Did you watch the video that I linked to?
I did watch the video. It pained me to watch that video.
It did. The size of that crowd, so many people, there's so many tight perms and dodgy jumpers.
And that was just several of that's the initial pains.
I know.
When you watch it, you're like, there's so many people. There's so many perms. There's just Yeah. And then he starts with his weird dance, which is a kind of body rotation without moving his neck or his shoulders. Like he's got frozen shoulders. He kind of rotates and sort of almost semi-punches the air without actually punching. There's something wrong with him. Something very wrong with him.
And the crowd is really out of time. They need to get in unison with their swaying. They're all over the place. It's a sway free-for-all. It's madness.
They're all partially deaf. They're all OAPs. And that's when the sound hits them. If their skin or lungs don't liquefy because it's that loud, then that's the best reaction he can hope for, is that they react within a similar, maybe 1 or 2 minute time frame for when he does the action.
I imagine some of them are so boneless. They're just like those things you see outside of car dealerships. That's why they're waving their arms about.
Some of the people in that crowd, when the strobe lights or the bright lights come on, they go transparent. They're that old. They can actually see the skeleton inside their skin.
And it looks terrified.
It's
not terrifying.
It would.
Terrified.
Yeah. Their face has got one expression, but their skull has got another. It's horrific, and what a terrible thing. Terrible.
It's awful. One place below Two Hearts, which you actually see some of them have two hearts too, is number 52, Cars and Girls by Prefab Sprout.
I made a note here that neither of those two things, Cars and Girls, are in your immediate future when you're the lead singer of a band named after a vegetable.
That is probably very true. And
that's why cabbage and parsnip have not done very well.
That's true. As for rhubarb, no, never heard of them. No. I've also evolved a term. It's now bland bore. Term's evolved because it's been going on so long.
It is bland bore. They are massive bland bore prefab sprout. Yeah. A prefabricated sprout doesn't make sense, you stupid idiots.
It doesn't. Number 54, Kiss and Tell by Brian Ferry.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with it really. I have to say, I listened to it, but I was like, totally forgettable shite.
Didn't recognise it. I thought this was a sneering, stylish neon funk overload. That video.
It is. Yeah, absolutely. Loads of neon funk in there.
I didn't think it was a bad song. It's just very Brian Ferry.
Yeah, totally Brian Ferry. And it made me look into what other popular ferry companies there were.
P&O aren't popular.
No, they're not. They're not popular. But they're in popular terms, they're just names. P&O Ferries, Brittany Ferries, Stena Line, Condor Ferries, DFDS Seaways, Irish Ferries, Corsica Ferries, Brian Ferries, and Bobby McFerrin's Ferries. They're all out there.
They're all out there doing the job. Absolutely.
I bet Brian's Ferries never get anywhere easily.
No.
They just meander their way around some kind of neon stylish funk overload until you get to where you want to be. And you're like, oh, God, it took 2 days to get here. So dull. So alarmingly dull.
We should have gone on Bobby McFerrin's Ferries because at least then would have been happy.
Yeah, you don't worry about that. You're just happy. Yeah.
You're just happy. Don't worry, we'll get you there in the end. Brian Ferry. Brian's Ferries.
Brian'sFerries.com.
At number 56, Je le Taxi by Vanessa Paradis.
What is the deal with the skinny, petite, French, slushy-looking teenager dancing slinkily while singing about a taxi driver? What is the deal with that? What's the appeal? I don't get it.
Well, You said it. The petite French sultry-looking teenager, I guess. That was probably the appeal to a lot of people back then.
Do you remember the video for it?
Vaguely. I remember the gap in her teeth.
Here's a question for you. Did she sing in English or did she sing in French, that song?
French, I think, wasn't it?
That's the question I'm asking.
Oh, right.
I genuinely, I'm not sure. It's like, slinky slinky dance dippy-doo. I'm not sure I was concentrating on the lyrics. I'm sorry, but I wasn't.
Is Joe a French word? Because it's
his name.
Joe the taxi.
Well, it's Joe the taxi driver, I think.
Well, the name's French, so I'm presuming she sang in French. I honestly can't remember. I just remember, like you, I remember more vowel sounds and just burbling than actual lyrics to this.
I remember the Paradise part more than the Vanessa. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, Vanessa Paradis, if that's your real name.
Yeah.
Anyway. And I don't believe that a young teenage girl will be that obsessed with the taxi driver. I don't know why, but I don't buy it.
No.
I don't buy it. No.
Easy enough to do a parody, though, wasn't it?
You could do an easy parody, a Vanessa parody, couldn't you?
There you go, clues in the name.
Joe the taxi. That's not really a parody. That's just
Bob the bus. Maybe that's where Bob the builder.
The bus. Bob the bus driver. Hey, look at me. 62p.
Don't make me tap the sign again.
62p is a return better value. It probably is on this route.
£2.50. Drive all day.
Yeah, that's an all-day rider. Anyway, just no more now. We know too much about bus travel.
We do.
In the North East Lincolnshire region, I feel.
Absolutely. Good old Stagecoach.
Good old Stagecoach.
This episode is sponsored by Lincolnshire
bloody
buses.
Well isn't. They can sod off with their stupid charges.
with their buses and
their rumble seats.
The green ones, when it came around the corner and it was a single decker, you'd be like,
that was the. Do you remember there was bus wars when we had the little mini buses that like turboed around the estates, and there was like the Stagecoach buses versus the Lynx road car buses, and it was just like crazy. They all drove like maniacs. You could get to town in like 2 minutes. Just like get on the bus. Like, right, they've got a bus behind us. Do you need to stop at any point during the way? No, right. Holy crap. We got to town in like 10 minutes. This is brilliant. It's 2p, please. What? 2p? It's all we're charging. We're not charging anything, really.
Leapfrogging around each other, try and get to the next stop first and pick everyone up.
Yeah, exactly. Honestly,
Madness.
They used to be crazy.
And now there's no buses. Now it's just empty roads and Lord Humongous asking for gasoline.
Yeah, it is. Give us your gasoline, Lynx road car.
We just need it for our buses. We are Stagecoach.
Stagecoach's version of Lord Humongous would be hilarious. They'll just all turn up on really badly made, like single decker buses. Give us your gasoline. We've got people that need to get from point A to point B
at a ridiculously overpriced cost.
Yeah, exactly. You charge 60p. We charge 55p. Come on, walk away.
You haven't been on a bus in a while, have you? 55p gets you from one stop to the next.
I don't travel on buses because I hate them and everything they stand for, but that's just me.
Anyway, yeah, Bob the Bus. Enter number 92 is Wait by White Lion.
Oh, Jesus.
Now, I didn't know what this was going to be like until I saw it in there, and I thought, with a name like White Lion, it has to be exactly what it sounds like, and it is. It really is, isn't it?
Yeah, hair metal. It's like someone put Europe, Bon Jovi, and Def Leppard in a cloning machine. Press the button, and out they popped.
Out popped White Lion.
And the video itself, dramatic camera zooms, terrible. The song is absolutely horrible. It's terrible in this. No. The solo, though, that made me laugh out loud for ages and ages and ages and ages. The solo in this, the guitar solo, is hilarious.
It's a wandering, tuneless nightmare of notes that bear no relation to anything around them. I've also noted that his trousers are also pure paint. There's no material could cling that tightly.
He has got painted on trousers in that. They are shocking, terrible, and bad. And that's just the band members' names.
White Lion's dreadful. It reminded me of the rock band that we created many, many years ago, White Spirit.
We did.
With Tempton Flex on vocals and Crusty Bottoms on drums.
Tempton Flex. Funny enough, when I read that back, I thought that's so alarmingly accurate that you could have a band called White Spirit and then we've got White Lion.
I know. That's
Tempton
what I mean.
Flex is exactly the guy that's in, because he's got white poodle permed hair with really dark eyebrows. It's like, who are you? Where did you come from?
There's a bit as well where the bassist and the singer sort of almost join heads at one point.
Oh,
I did think that their hair got tangled, so they had to cut cut away quickly and untangle them. But the
It ain't
hair would
good.
have been, it ain't. It's a really bad song, bad video.
Yep.
Just bad.
Yep.
14th of February, Beat This by Bomb the Bass.
Yeah. Classic. Bomb the bass. Good stuff.
Yeah. So I always get this confused because obviously I thought this was the one from Xenon 2 or the one that was used or influenced Xenon 2, whatever it was. The Amiga track.
No, it's an easy mistake to make because Mega Blast by Bomb the Bass is basically the same kind of track, albeit constructed from different samples. Principally Assault with Precinct 13. So, but Beat This is a great track by them. Keep this frequency clear.
Yeah.
It's a great track, and it's Tim Simonal, I think, isn't it? The Bomb the Bass, essentially. So, really good stuff. He was actually homeless at one point. He was a homeless guy living in a squat, and he was always apparently very adamant that he was going to make it big. And there you go, Bomb the Bass happened, and he made it big.
Made it big. At number 25, Doctor in the House, featuring Yaz and the Plastic Population.
Yeah,
by
bit of a
Cold Cut,
classic.
featuring Yaz and the Plastic Population.
Bit of a classic house track. Appeared on pretty much every house compilation in existence from that time.
This is
forever.
Doctor in the House.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's that one.
everyone's heard of it. Doctor in. We got a hot one for you. Will you take care of Gary, the podcast friend, played this a lot because it's on House Hits 88, I think, or maybe one of those house compilations. But I think I'm safe in saying he liked this track.
He probably did. He liked all this sort of thing.
Well, some of the house tracks were pretty bland at this point. You got Girl, I'll House You. Say what, Girl, I'll House You. Say what? Do-do-do-do. But this one actually had a nice liveliness to it. Yaz is a very enigmatic singer, and it's kind of cool. So I think
I'm sure we'll see a lot more of Yaz coming up.
Well, we will. The only way is up with her.
Yeah,
so.
which is a cracking pop tune. But she
exactly.
was interesting character. Number 27, Man in the Mirror by Michael Jackson.
Not a fan of Michael Jackson generally, but this is for me not one I really like. It's not my cup of tea. But did you like
okay.
it?
It's got a nice chorus. Talking better. It's got a very staccato-ish lyrical style.
Yeah.
This is okay. It's quite unusual. But it's all right. It's not really the best off that album, but it's passably okay. Number 42, People Are Strange by Echo and the Bunny Men.
Yeah. People are strange when you're a stranger. It's a great version of that track by The Doors, isn't it?
Yes.
It's the only other version, I think, that's actually arguably a little bit better than the Doors version, I think. But, there's Doors purists out there that probably just laid an egg. But I quite like I quite like the
face of Jim
Echo and the
Morrison on
Bunnymen
it.
version. It probably has, and I also like it for the fact that it's in the opening titles of The Lost Boys. So it's a good track, that is, by them.
Yeah, Ray Mankiewicz, whatever his name is, the keyboardist.
Yeah,
from
that's the
Doors
one.
has probably just put a hit out on us.
Exactly. It's just I told you he's laid an egg.
It's got the price of our death on it.
That's like what's that movie where there's like the tapestry where there's like all the
Wanted.
tapestry of fate. Yeah, it's like Wanted, but he just lays eggs.
I thought it was more like the Red Ball in Minority Report.
Yeah, same difference.
If you think about the Minority Report and imagine someone squatting at the top of the tube where those balls come down, that's a whole different kettle of fish to what that film's about.
We've alluded to Minority Report now a few times, and I think you're right. I think the top of those tubes, it's like if you followed the thread in the Wanted all the way up and it just came out of somebody's arsehole. They don't know why they do it. Like a spider, they just produce web. You'd be like, oh, that's bloody awful.
Yeah, someone producing a Red Ball.
Yeah, there's like 6 people up there just webbing. You're like, oh, God.
You have to wonder why.
It's like a crap harp.
Tom Cruise always has gloves on.
Now you know why, because those red eggs are not from a good place.
Absolutely not. Just have someone's name engraved on them.
Or regs, as they call them. God, that's so bloody gross.
It's a murder.
It's a murder.
It's going to happen.
Check the fate string. It's coming out of John's ass. I know it is, but just check it anyway.
Weave it.
Weave it into something useful because it's awful. How long have they got to stand there? I don't know. 10 years. It's awful. It's horrible. It just comes out. They can't help it. They can't stop it. Can't stop it. Let it go. Let it go. Shh. Let it go.
Number 45 is Hot, Hot, Hot by The Cure.
Yeah. Not. What the hell is this god-awful crap?
Well, as I've noticed, he's had his hair cut. So like Samson before him, he lost all his goth powers that were nestled in that unruly mop. Because this sounds
so
like
bad.
Sub In Excess.
It does.
Smith's vocals, Smith's vocals layered on top.
Yeah. It's awful. It doesn't
really
sound like
bad-
a Cure track. Was this a Cure separatist track? I mean, the purists of the Cure must have hated that because
I
it's
would have
total
thought
change.
so. Yeah, it's very
I don't know
different to
any.
what was going on. I mean, they get back to proper Cure with the next album, I think, Disintegration, but God knows what's going on with them at this point in time. If that is the next album, I think it might be.
Exactly. I think in all truthfulness, the red egg that came out said you must release a track called Hot, Hot, Hot. And they were like, okay, if fate's dictated it and the string and the egg says it, okay, we'll do it. But it seems a bit odd. It's not quite our MO, but okay.
But okay, I'll do it. At number 47 was The Presence of Love by The Alarm.
Channeling Bono again, aren't they?
Yeah.
Only this time, the Bono ratio is slightly lower and the U2 quotient is less. It actually felt musically more like a Belinda Carlisle track. I think they've been Carlisle'd more than anything else. But what about you? Massive Carlisling of the music here.
Yeah, is that similar to Dundeeing of the music or Morecaming of the music?
Yeah.
Or would that last one include a brown coat and waggling of the glasses?
Absolutely. I think this is just, I listen to it and it sounds horrible and it's out of tune and awful anyway. But when he starts to channel Bono, you're like, ugh. And it's like listen to a crap Bono impersonator sing over a Belinda Carlisle track. Nobody wanted that and nobody ever will. No wonder the alarms are going off.
They're going off everywhere. The Red Bull is dropping.
Yeah. Beep, 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 beep. It's like in that movie The Thing.
Tom Cruise is on his way.
When the dog's being taken over by the thing and McCready goes and one of them goes and grabs the alarm like, beep, 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 beep. That's exactly what happened here.
Someone put this song on and went, what the hell is this? Because I don't know, it's weird and up.
Weird and pissed off, whatever it is. Yeah, it's shocking.
Shocking. Number 51 is An Englishman in New York. I'm an Englishman in New York.
I drink coffee. You drink coffee. I drink tea, my dear. That's all good. I like my toast on one side. Yeah, no one likes their one-sided toast. Nobody likes that. Nobody.
I used to have it like that when I was younger.
What?
My mum was like, no, you can't have the grill on that long, so I had to just one-sided toast.
I don't believe that's true.
That's fair enough.
But if that is true, at least you're aligning yourself to the gay icon Quentin Crisp, clearly, who also apparently liked his toasted on one side. we
not sure that was the case. We didn't have enough gas.
The debate is here, though. If you're making cheese on toast, do you toast one side of the bread?
Oh, God, I do it now, yes. Now I can afford.
Do you partially toast and then put the cheese on? Or do you just put the cheese on the under-toasted side and then let it toast?
Cheese on untoasted.
Goodness me. What is going on in the world?
Because if you don't, then the cheese doesn't melt fast enough and then the edges get burnt.
It's just, honestly, what you've got there is a grill too high situation. Anyway, I just don't believe that Quentin Crisp, being the incredible gay icon that he was...
It's about 3 foot off the floor. I can't change that.
I don't believe that he ever expressed a toast preference in any discussion with Sting. I don't believe that happened. I mean, in your instance, if you can't, actually afford the gas to toast the other side of the bread, fair enough. Okay, that's how it works. But I don't believe Quentin Crisp ever had that issue. And a song about it's weird.
It is weird. It is very strange. 21st of February, number 6. In at number 6 is Suede Head or Sweater Head by Morrissey.
No.
Rubbish. I hate Morrissey. I hate all he stands for. I hate the robot version of him and everything to do with him. So I'm not talking about this.
This was the follow-up single to The Hangman Wore a Jumper and its B-side, Fairy Cake Suicide.
It's just
Other
become
than that, I don't know anything about it.
a parody of himself at this point.
He is, yeah.
Number 9, Together Forever and Ever for Apart, whatever it says, by Rick Astley.
Yeah, the Stockacre and Waterman Machine.
And ever do. Something like that.
Together forever with you. The Stockacre and Waterman Machine, it pumps.
It cannot be stopped.
It just pumps. These quid coins are going... He's like, it's so painful and yet so enriching.
Someone's squeezing his ass like a bellows.
Exactly. They're pumping him.
Pump it, baby, pump it. At number 17, more goth. We've had The Cure, The Mission, and now we've got the Sisters of Mercy with Dominion.
Dominion. Yeah, it's a good track. It's one of my personal favourites next to This Corrosion.
It
has all the classic Sisters of Mercy tropes with the ha, 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 and the he, and all that.
And it's a song so good, they just changed the lyrics and put it twice on the album.
Yeah. What's it?
It just turns into Mother Russia, doesn't it?
Yeah. Mother Russia, give me down. And all that, yeah. I'm not bothered. I like that
it's a
track.
great track. It's a good track.
Well, It's a long track though, and it's quite good.
It doesn't mean
a lot
anything.
of the Sisters of Mercy tracks are exhaustive in their length. I think they wear you down after a while. After sort of 10 minutes, you're like, oh God's sake, just shut up. But you kind of like it.
Number 29 is Crash by the Primitives.
Yeah, good group.
It is, and everyone knows this track.
Yeah, but they don't know who sang it.
No, they don't.
They go, who is this? Now here I go. On my own again. Who is this? Is this the Bangles? It's like, no.
Is it Daisy Chainsaw? Is it someone like that?
Daisy Chainsaw, yeah. I love your money. Who is it? It's Crash by the Primitives. Oh, the Primitives. You've never heard of them, and you never will again after this conversation, you dumb crazy.
Now back in the box.
Off you go, yeah.
Number 39.
You're going to get the hose again now.
Absolutely. Put the lotion on.
You get the hose again.
Number 39, I Get Weak by Belinda Carlisle. I just want the gasoline. Just want the lotion. Number 39, I Get Weak by Belinda Carlisle.
Yeah, written by Diane Warren and produced by Rick Knowles. And so it's written by the hit factory that is Diane Warren.
Yeah.
So it's I Get Weak.
Yeah.
Weak. So is it Weak in the Presence of Beauty? Is that another song completely? Am I amalgamating two songs?
I think that's two different songs.
I think that's two. Anyway, it's all the same difference.
It's good tune, this though, what I remember of it. Belinda Carlisle, she was doing good stuff at this point. Number 42, who wasn't doing good stuff, Heart of Gold by Johnny Hates Jazz.
No, he hates jazz. He does not have a heart of gold. His heart is full of hate.
It is. And he's also in this video sporting a bit of designer bum fluff.
Oh, he is.
It was showing that it's a bit dangerous.
Yeah, he's not dangerous.
Very bland ball.
I suspect if a gang of jazz musicians circled him, they could just horn him to death with their horns.
They would play notes at him in between the other notes, and he wouldn't know what to make of it.
They'd blue note him to the point of death. They'd be like, stop. You hate jazz, do you? You do now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Take my pentatonic scale.
It could be Johnny Hates Yaz as well, which was the singer of the Plastic Population.
Or Johnny Hates Baz.
Oh, Baz. Just an arbitrary hatred of people, generally speaking. He's a hateful guy.
Could be Johnny Hates Jazz Rignall.
Could be. He might have done. We don't know. We never will know.
We don't know. Never know. Number 58, Anarchy in the UK by Megadeth.
Yeah. No. Crap,
No.
Unwelcome and unnecessary.
Yeah.
The three Rice Krispie characters you don't want to meet.
And you can take that to the bank.
Cover of a Sex Pistols anthem, not good, and really not good, so avoid.
No. Number 82 is Ride Like the Wind by Saxon.
Oh, God, it's such a shit song. If you like Saxon, you're going to dig it because it's totally up their, avenue, but I thought it was just utter garbage.
Yeah.
And this Spinal Tap equivalent, which is a kind of a Mickey take, not totally similar to that, was Break Like the Wind. So I'm guessing that's based upon that. I don't know.
Must be. Sure. It's got some awful lyrics, though. I was born the son of a lawless man, always spoke my mind with a gun in my hand. Lived 9 lives, gunned down 10, gonna ride like the wind. None of this makes any sense. I've got such a long way to go to make it to the border of Mexico. So
that's
I'll
a good
ride
lyric.
Like the wind,
I like that.
Ride like the wind. But aren't they from the north of England? No wonder they have a bit of distance to go to get to Mexico.
A very long way to go to get to Mexico. Why the border of Mexico? I like the fact they've rhymed way to go with Mexico, though. That's
could have used Ohio.
Yeah, well, I like
Monaco.
That, the chances of they're called Saxon because Saxons.
I know. Why are they
Normans? Were the follow up band was Normans. There was Vikings. There was all sorts of.
There was the Goth.
Yeah, their first album, 1066, was a bit of a misnomer. It didn't quite work.
So Ride Like the Wind, Arrow in the Eye.
Yeah,
that's all good stuff.
Yeah.
Wrapping up, 28th of February. In at number 20 was The Ship of Fools by Erasure.
Yeah, good song. Released as the lead single from their third studio album, The Innocents. Some wobbling in that video, Adrian. Some wobbling, but not a great deal of bending.
No
very
Andy
blue.
Bend. No,
very blue.
No Andy Bell Bend.
No, it was a very blue video.
It was very pastel, wasn't it? Very pastel colours.
Yeah, very. And just their faces generally kind of looking around. Not sure what that's all about, but...
No, I'm not either. Number 35 is the double A side of Never and These Dreams by Heart.
Oh, God, that song. The amount of makeup she wears, the woman in the beginning of the video, it's extraordinary how
Which
much
one,
makeup
Nancy?
she's gone. Yeah. To the point when it almost looks like she's been made of porcelain and plastic. It's like, goodness me. Are you a human? Is that a mask that's been spray painted to look like the woman you represent, or is that you?
I think
not good.
Be. It's also the same, I told you, didn't I? It's the same video location as the last one we looked at.
Yeah, they must have shot them all in one weekend, I
They
think.
must have, and half the time, but I did note half the time it looks like Nancy's lost, possibly looking for the toilet or where she left her guitar stand.
Both,
Not sure
I think.
which.
Yep. She got really weird, almost semi-boss eyes as well in that. It's not good. Not a good
And
look.
finally, just to round out the singles, number 59 is Just Like Paradise by David Lee Roth.
Yeah, we mentioned the album Skyscraper, didn't we? This is off that. Great song, I think. Always looks like they're having a good fun when the video. It's very silly outside of David Lee Roth climbing and flying around on ropes. But I'll forgive it all for both the guitar playing, which is amazing, and the stupid guitar with its 3 fretboards.
Oh, is it the the triple neck?
Yeah, with a big giant heart, which Steve Vai is using in that song. The solo in it is very, very cool, but it fades away towards the end of the song, which is kind of a bit of a theme of that album. It's also really hard to play, that solo. It's really hard, but there's a lot of echo on there.
You're saying a Steve Vai solo is hard to play? I would never have thought that.
Yeah, no, the thing is, yes, they are hard to play, obviously, because it's Steve Vai, but at the same time, there's a lot of effects that have been layered onto that, and the technique that he's got isn't massively difficult. It's just, obviously you've got a master playing with 18-inch fingers in a rapid way.
You've got to play like an alien from Total Recall.
There's a couple of tutorials on there, but you've got to know how to, make your guitar make the sounds that his guitar makes, which isn't easy to do at the best of the time. Anyway, however, what is interesting a little bit is that there was a TV show in the US many moons ago called My Secret Identity. I don't know if you ever came across that.
Nope, never heard of it.
And the original opening titles of My Secret Identity have got a little bit of I think a nod to Just Like Paradise. So when you get a moment, have a listen, see what you think. I think there's the similarity there. And also the guy that plays the young kid, well, the person who plays the young kid in My Secret Identity is the same kid that is Vern in Stand By Me, and also in this Sliders TV show. Same guy.
And he's in Scream 2.
Yes,
He's their boyfriend
same guy.
in Scream 2.
Yeah, same guy. So it's quite interesting. But
name.
when you hear that, you can't help something, my secret identity. It's very similar.
That is the same tune as Living on Paradise.
Yeah, because it's principally the same thing. That little bit, not the whole thing, but have a listen when you get a minute and see what you think.
Okay. Well, we'll also, as we go into our next part, we'll hear something else that sounds like something else, maybe. But there you go. Anyway. There you go. That's your singles. Bit weird, a bit strange. Some odd things going on there with red balls and what have you. Never thought I'd see the day. Never thought I'd see it, I have to say. We're going to go take a quick break after that lot. We'll be back. We've got 4 more games coming up. So we're going to get into them after this. So stay where you are and we'll be back in a bit.
The novel Escape from the Commodore 64 by David Hearn is out now. Crash landing on a green planet full of vector graphics, can Sarah find a way to escape for real? Or is she stranded on a planet full of sun, sea, and chippy tea forever? Imagine finding yourself in a cinematic karate game, having to rescue a princess, or remain stuck under the run-stop key forever. What about finding yourself on a space freighter full of robots? Could you clear the decks? If you were transported back to a Wild West town, having to round up outlaws, could you survive until sunset? What if you were a wizard with a cat who must colour worlds? Could you beat the game, or would a virtual guitar solo announce your demise? Sarah might just be another visitor, but she doesn't want to stay a while, never mind forever. Available from Amazon and all good online retailers, discover if there's a way out in Escape from the Commodore 64. Visit davidhearnwriter.com to find out more.
Are you keeping up with the Commodore? Yes, the Commodore is keeping up with you.
And we are back. We've got 4 more games to get through. Hopefully this won't be quite as bleak as the first part, but you never know. You never know. Let's see what fate has in store for us. Well, our first one is a bit more of a up-tempo, maybe happier take on a budget title. So, Graham, can you beat it?
Do. It's nothing to do with the Michael Jackson song at all.
Oh.
This is Beat It. This is Beat It Jammin' 2. Jammin' 2. Jammin'. We hope you like Jammin' 2. That one.
Yeah.
Not that.
Jammin'.
So $1.99. Epic from, I think, Mastertronic. 88% is scored in the old Zapparoo. Coded by Tony Gibson. Gibbo! Was Gibbo did this? Gibbo! Oi, Gibbo! Gibbo! Did you code this game, Gibbo?
Gibbons!
Gibbons! Where the hell are you? The graphics are by Video Nices. I'm not sure who that is or why they called it that, but that's what it is.
Rather than Video Nasties, I guess.
This is a sequel to the 1983 game by Taskset called Jammin', which was a borderline incomprehensible game based around you playing as Rockin' Rodney with a similar theme of collecting musical notes and colours on a multicoloured series of levels and such. I think it was 20 in the original. It was, as you might expect from 1983, a bit basic, but there was the gem of an interesting idea, and it was indeed very colourful. Okay. 1988, and out of the budget blue comes Beat It, Jammin' 2. From the same stable, same people. The arcade-style game follows a similar notion to its originating game. You again play as Rockin' Rodney, and here you must negotiate 60 levels, collecting the musical notes on each level that will complete the tune you are hearing in the background. Collect them all within the time limit, and you will move to the next level. Each level consists of a series of maze-like paths and single directional travelators. Or, I guess travelators is the right word. I don't know, conveyor belts. I don't know, travelators.
Yeah, conveyor belts, travelators, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Which create the puzzle-like environment you find yourself within. You scoot your way around using the paths, etc., to your advantage, trying to collect all the notes before you run out of time. Each level is also the home to several enemies, skulls, notes, stuff, etc., which will gradually work their way towards you. And if they make contact with you, you will lose one of your collected notes back to the maze. Or the screen can go black, or you can have your control direction changes and reversed, or you can even split into two, lose all of your notes, and you are through. That's it. You're musically inept. You're done. The music's finished. It's ended. The concert's over. You're out of there. You're done. That's the game. It's a kind of an arcade-inspired kind of game based on an old game. The graphics here are quite simple, a little bit bitty, maybe, but they kind of work. There's a definite upgrade from Jammin'. Rockin' Rodney, however, has definitely gained some pixel pounds in this version. He's gone on the medium res diet on the C64, which means you're going to get a lot wider than you were.
He's done what all good artists do, sort of thing, and put on a few pounds, and he's enjoyed the good life.
He's gained a bit of pixel heft. But nevertheless, the gameplay has a nice arcade feeling and vibe to it. Some of the technical details are a little bit wobbly here and there. It's a bit of screen flickering, filtering, a little bit of screen and raster sort of scrolly sort of line flicker, bad lines, that kind of thing. But all in all, this is it's a nice fun experience for a couple of quid. I think the oral part of the game is a definite improvement over the first game, which was kind of a bitonal, horrific nightmare, the kind of thing that you torture somebody with if you were trying to get them to confess to something. And this game, at least the music is kind of tonally interesting. It's got, in each level that you play, has its own kind of sound and sort of theme, I guess. There's a nice vibe in all of this, really, and it's quite a nice idea for a game. I think the implementation's just a little bit rough around the edges, maybe. But there's a playable game in here. It's kind of fun because I had a little bit of fun with it. In its own simple, one-screen, level arcade logic. And in that essence, for £2, Beat It, Jammin' 2 had something. Had a little bit of fun about it. It's £2 at the end of the day. I quite liked it. I never played the original. I did for this podcast. I went back and got it and played it. The original was kind of incomprehensible garbage. It was horrible and a rainbow-inspired nightmare, the kind of which would make you poo rainbow colours over a period of several days. This is much better. It's a much better proposition and game. Much nicer. Took a few years to get right, obviously, but it pays off. If you ignore the first one, this one's probably kind of a good game all in all. For £2, I liked it. I quite liked it. It was all right. Music might have been a little bit better. Graphics could have been a little bit better, but it's £2 and it got 88%. All right. I could go with that. What about you?
Yeah, pretty much the same. It's a simple premise. I thought it was I thought it owed a bit to Pac-Man style of maze collection, sort of as in moving around the maze sort of thing. There's that kind of, it's a maze, isn't it? It's a maze game sort of thing. You play as Rockin' Rodney. I thought Rockin' Rodney's a great name, by the way. It really sounds really dorkish, but I quite like that name.
True.
Yeah, it's a good name. Obviously, because I associate Rodney with Only Fools and Horses. I get that. And Rodney Dangerfield, I suppose. But Rockin' just makes me laugh. You must collect all the notes on the screen to get to the next one. Yeah, it's all right. It's made harder by the fact that traversal from layer to layer is only by moving squares, moving travelators, conveyor belts. It's easy to get trapped on the wrong track and find it hard to get back because of the enemies milling about and the nature of the maze itself. As you've rightly said, the graphics are chunky, but they're okay. They're easy to read. The music, I thought the music's quite clever in the way it builds up as you collect the notes, different bits coming in. I thought, the entire premise is pretty clever. It's a clever take on the genre. I never played this either. This was not one that I ever played, saw, looked at, and I never even played Jammin' either. I've just had a quick look at Jammin'. I didn't play it for this, but it does look like a game from 1983, that's for sure, doesn't it?
It does.
Big blocky boldness, that one. Anyway, it's a bit clunky in the controls. It just didn't feel quite responsive enough, and it gets quite chaotic quite quickly, I found, on some as you progress through the levels. So I don't know if the controls and moving around are quite quick enough for you to be able to navigate the mazes as fast as you want it to be. Maybe it's just me and my old reactions, I don't know. But I did like the concept. Good budget title, £2, 60 screens. Someone I've read as well, I didn't see it on there. Is there a level creator as well?
I didn't notice that.
I didn't notice either. I've just seen someone sort of notice just looking on Lemon 64.
Didn't say anything in the Zap review.
No, I didn't see that either. So says he's got a level editor, but I don't know. Maybe that's on the backside of the tape or something. I don't know. With all that though, it's a clever concept. Looks quite nice. It's a good budget title. Certainly something to entertain if you were stuck in on a Sunday afternoon, I would have thought. This was all right. Not sure it deserves 88%, but maybe at £2 and with a nice premise and 60 levels, yeah, kind of see why. But yeah, it's a bit of fun. It's kind of what we needed after the first,
well,
first
maybe,
half lot of games.
I don't know how it's going to help, but maybe.
We just need a bit of, bit of colour, bit of fun, bit of music, bit of lightheartedness.
I get all that, but I know what's coming up, so.
Oh, yeah, okay, fair enough. There you go. Beat it. £2. It's all right. Not too bad.
Yeah.
Let's move along. See what we've got in the next one. Okay. This Mask 2. £10 from Gremlin. Mask 2. Anyway, right. So the title screen tune to this is a version. It's a quite a good version of the cartoon intro, which is a pretty good version of it, I thought.
Sort of.
Even if it did, as I pointed out to you, because I was not aware of this, but when it came on, I thought it reminded me really strongly of Gloria.
Yeah, it has a few notes very similar from the same.
Yeah,
sort of
there's also a bit in it as well. There's also a tuneful moment in it, the middle bit, which reminded me of "We Didn't Start the Fire" as well. There's a bit of there in that. As well.
It's derivative a bit.
Yeah. What it told me, though, was that I have no memory of Mask. It's not one of those cartoons that I have no recollection of. I've got a really good memory for theme tunes and stuff from the 80s.
This game isn't going to help you with that.
Cartoon sort of thing. But I went to YouTube and watched because I thought, what is this theme tune? And then I listened to it. I was like, oh, it's the theme to the program itself. No. It didn't ring any bells whatsoever. The intro didn't ring any bells. I don't think I ever watched it, so I don't think this really stuck with me anyway. So that's Mask 2. Mask. It's all a much of a muchness. It's just 80s toys to me. You went through what Mask was when we did the original review of the first one, so I'm not going to reiterate that. It is what it is. Go listen to that review. It'll tell you. If you need to know about Mask, go listen to that one. Anyway, this is, as I said, from Gremlin Graphic. It's got code by Jason Perkins and Chris Kerry. Not the Future Night Bounder guys, the Gremlins other team, when Sean Southern's not making games for him. So it's the other team. It's Team 2B, whatever, Alpha, B, Bravo team. It's whatever it is. It's got visuals by Steve Kerry and Marco Giroux, and the music is by Mr. Ben Daglish himself. So that's the team that made this. When the game loads, you're treated to the main intro screen. And that's straight from the intro to the cartoon. As our 5 Maskians, I don't know what to actually call them, but Maskians will do, sit around a big table, and there's a big tube in the middle. I don't know what it is. I did read what it was, some kind of hall of something or other. But it just looks like a big table where they get their missions from, whatever. And that's it. So the game just starts and it's there and you kind of just straight into it. And you got to pick your 3... You have to pick 3 of the characters. There's 5 of them sat around the table for the upcoming mission. Okay, so this game is mission-based. There are 3 missions, and you have to complete all 3, and you can do any of them. So you pick which one mission you want to do. How you pick those missions, though, is weird and obscure and not particularly very clear. That's what I found anyway. Anyway, the people that you can trick, there's Matt Tracker. I'm not going to go. These are characters. These are parts of the Mask team. There's Matt Tracker. He drives the Thunderhawk. There's Bruce Sato. He drives the Rhino ATV. There's Alex Sector, who drives the Rhino, not the Rhino ATV, just the Rhino this time. We've got Brad Turner, who drives the Condor. And finally, Dusty Hayes, who drives the Gator. Now, you've got to choose wisely here, as each mission will need certain abilities, like being able to fly or go on water. So you need a good mix of abilities from the vehicles chosen, otherwise you won't be able to complete the mission that is set before you. Dotted in the 3 of the corners, so the screen is kind of taken up. At the bottom there's a text screen. This is the title screen. This top left is this big picture of them around the desk, around the sort of central table. And I can't remember what's on the right, but it doesn't really matter. But in this big table picture, there's 3 icons on it as well. In the top left, there's a 4-way arrow. So moving up to that and pressing fire allows you to reselect the people for the job. So if you've picked the wrong people, you can just go there and it resets them, so you can do that. In the top right, there's just a big queue, and this allows you to select between the missions, I think. Because the mission you're on is just described at the bottom. So it goes, oh, the president has been kidnapped, or Venom are building a base in the jungle, or trying to mine some laser with some jewels in the jungle, or they're building a desert base or something. So there's these 3 missions, but it wasn't actually clear that those were the missions I was choosing. It just seemed to be randomly putting this text along the bottom. So I found that a bit confusing. There was nothing to actually tell me that was doing that. But I kind of worked it out. That's kind of what was going on. And then the bottom left is a disc picture. If you just go to that, but be careful going to that, because if you go to that, it just starts the game loading, the loading process. Painfully slow loading process, because this is a multi-load game for reasons that are not particularly clear, not to me anyway. So you better make sure you pick the right mission and the right people. If you hit that part in the left-hand corner, because it starts loading and then you're done for. Like I said, there's 3 missions to choose from. Doesn't really matter though, because they all amount to the same thing. So whether you're rescuing the president, knocking out a laser in the jungle, or blowing up a base in the desert, bar some different colours on the background of the game, you've got to be doing the same thing in each one. That's really what this game is about. Once the level is loaded, what you'll be doing is simply flying, driving, powerboating from left to right, and trying to do what the level asks of you, which might just be collect a big picture of Ronald Reagan, I think, at one point. Weirdly, in one of them, when you got to rescue the president. I don't know what you had to do after that bit, but you got to get him underground or something. I don't know. It's not very good. The first thing you'll notice when the game actually starts is that it's a bit rubbish, to put it bluntly. The graphics are blocky and they're not that interesting to look at. Control is simple enough, with left and right to move and fire to shoot. If you press up on certain vehicles, it transforms them into flying cars or a flying motorbike, or it turns it into a plane or a helicopter or something or whatever. Whilst if you drive into rivers, then if you've got the car that'll turn into a boat, it turns into a boat. But don't go into the river as a non-boat car, though, as you'll die, and that vehicle is out of the level. You can switch between the cars by pressing 1, 2, and 3. If you press space, it allows you to restart the level, but I think my version was bugged up because I couldn't restart the level or go back, so I think it had a bit of a buggy crack. But to be fair, I just reloaded it and just tried the different levels. It's the same thing time and time again, but you can go back to base, choose different vehicles, you've chosen the wrong one, so on and so on and so on. It's really crap. It looks awful. It plays terribly. I have no idea if this is close to the mass cartoon. What I can say is this is a poor game. I have no idea why this is multi-load. None. The levels are not that big. And considering some of the amazing stuff we've seen in single loads, this ugly, poorly playing attempt at a shooter is no real calling card for the franchise. If you think of games like Sanction, Delta, Whizball, Bubble Bobble, all those things we've seen crammed, Green Beret, all those things we've seen crammed into 64K, and this is 3 ugly levels on a multi-load that are not even particularly that impressive or anything. Ugh. It's poor to play and ugly to look at. The shooting's dull, the enemies are just careening nonsense, and the whole thing looks amateurish. Coming so soon after the first game, I can only assume this is another rushed release with little to no thought put behind it. Either they were developing these games in tandem, which they may very well have been. I didn't look into it. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. But if this was like, oh no, let's get another game out, we've got the license, then this clearly stinks of that. It's a bad game on all accounts, bar the rendition of the title tune on the main screen. It's certainly got, Mask 2, and it's certainly got that number 2. That's for sure. On the front cover of this as well, it says the title twice. I had a look at the cover for the cassette. It says Mask 2, Mask 2. We're like, why are you telling me twice? I don't know. Rubbish. This was awful. And I'm not a big fan of the Mask games. Maybe if you liked Mask, you might get something from this, but I very much doubt it because it's crap. What did you think?
My initial thought was, Christ, this is shit. What a weird and odd selection screen that you start off with, that kind of weird people sat around kind of like the wheel, like a Michael McIntyre version, 8-bit version of the Michael McIntyre game show, The Wheel, where you sort of select the 3 people to go to the mission and then hope in some manner that will connect into the thing that follows, because it's not immediately obvious what you have to click on. And when you do, it kind of just sort of hops and skips, and then all of a sudden you're loading something and you're like, okay, is it broken? Is it loading? It's just a loading screen. Then eventually it sort of clumps into play. When you do finally get to the crappy game, it's a badly drawn nightmare. And I've put in the vein of army moves. And when I say in the vein, I mean like a heroin injection in the vein. Like a really, like a nasty thing. It's not good.
It's not, no.
No, it's not. It's horrible to look at, bad to control. there's nothing enjoyable about it. Oh, it's nothing that's enjoyable. Really bad graphics. Really, when you're super scooting along as a vehicle and you change into a boat, and it's just awful. It's really shit. I'm not sure why or how it got released. I don't get it. I mean, if you paid full price for the first Mask game, and then this one came along, and then you paid full price for this one, you'd have to be actually mad. You'd have to be insane. You'd have to be like, I really like the Mask one. Really? Nobody's ever said those words. I'm going to buy Mask 2. Nobody's ever said that after that. Goodness me, wow. It's a truly terrible thing. This is terrible game making. Really is. There's no redeeming features here. This is clearly just trying to milk even more money out of the Mask teat, which I didn't realize was a very full teat. I'm pretty sure the milk has dried up. This is just, I'm not sure what dust you're kind of squeezing out of this teat. It's nasty. It's all nasty. Rubbish game. 10 quid, 36%. It's less percentage for full price. Get lost. It's crap.
It is crap.
I don't know what Gremlin are doing at the moment. They've gone beyond hit and miss. This is just awful.
Unless Sean Southern's making it for him, it's not very good, it seems.
The licensing for this is just obtuse. It's awful.
There is a Mask 3 coming, though. There's a third one.
Well, you know what it's going to be. Awful.
Don't look great.
No, because people who bought the Mask 1 and 2 are going to be like, should I buy this? The first two were shit. Oh, okay, I'll buy it. No, you've been triple punched.
From behind. You've been split wide and filled with pound coins by Pete Waterman.
And nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that. Ugh. That sounds horrible.
No, horrible. It is horrible.
It really is. That's Mask 2. Mask poo. There we go.
Yep.
Too easy, but it's not beyond me. There we go. Right, we've got 2 left. Let's move on into our next one. Graham, let's take us out of this world.
Out of this world. By the way, you noticed that throughout the Andy Capp review, he never actually said Andy Crap. I'm quite proud of us for that. Anyway.
Too easy, too low-hanging fruit.
That's what I said in the last episode.
Not as low-hanging as Mask Poo, but...
No, but Mask Poo, it deserves to be done. Anyway, out of this world, this is a £9.99 game. Copyright is Reactor Software. The developer is Better Tech Limited. They sound really crap. They sound like the kind of company that makes really naff sort of home appliance assistance tools.
Or
record cleaners.
Cheap TVs you see in a supermarket
exactly
brand.
That, or, what to, if you need to clean your records, you could use the Better Tech system. It's up there with JML, I think. I don't know. The coder here was Darren Watts, a.k.a. Daz, a.k.a. Dazsoft. The graphics are by Graph Tech Quicks, whatever that is. Musician is Jason C. Brook, but it's labelled as binary design in the game. Whatever.
Confusing.
Whatever. In this game, you are the pilot of an experimental fighter craft, the RP-2-16. Catchy. And you are meant to be reporting on the performance during test flights. However, in the true Buck Rogers style, strange forces, elemental stuff, perfect circumstances have transported you away, and you appear above the surface of a strange planet being attacked from all sides. Your mission is now to try and survive the 8 horizontally scrolling levels of the planet and escape. As you shoot the enemy aliens, and just a thought, they may have just been trying to reach out in a language that's unfamiliar to you, that's based solely on the power of laser beams. They will drop energy pods, which could also be the last tears of the aliens that you've killed. Anyway, that were just trying to say hello, maybe. I'm just trying to say, not all is what it seems when you land on an alien planet, just like killing things indiscriminately. Anyway, collecting the energy pods will add energy to your RP-2-16 secondary weapons, which will activate when you have enough energy to do so. They look a bit similar to the Delta weapons in the way they're sort of in the game, don't they?
Do you think?
A little bit.
Just a little bit.
In the bottom border with the kind of, they're exactly the same. What are we on about? They only activate for a short while, so you got to be careful with that. When you killed enough of the native aliens, an exit or the E letter will float across and appear. You grab that, then you go to the bonus level, where you have to try and just survive as long as you can. And then it's on to the next level with even more alien genocide. You get 6 lives to try and traverse this nightmare of murder. The graphics here are somewhat clumsily shaded medium res with fairly basic sprites and patterns for the enemies. You are at what looks like a mini sort of curled up frog green spaceship shooting at things. The backgrounds vary from level to level, so there's mountains, forests, trees and mushrooms in one, to the snow-covered walled caves and snowmen. Now that led me again to thinking that the planet you landed upon by chance was not hostile because they make snowmen. Warring nations don't generally do that. So you've just happened upon this planet and just started killing everything. They were just trying to communicate and talk to you in laser speak. If somebody can only talk to you in laser and and that's all if you're good, it just sounds to me like you've just murdered innocent laser folk.
No one who speaks German could be evil.
Exactly. Well,
to quote The Simpsons.
They were fluent in laser, and you just interpreted that as as an attack. Anyway, the scrolling is smooth. The controls are reasonably responsive, although it had a really weird way of centering your spaceship all the time, which I found quite unnerving. Yeah, there is that. But aside from that, it kind of performs okay as a game. I think the weapon upgrades don't really occur, as far as I could tell. This is certainly not quick enough or with any real urgency that makes them, pertinent. And they don't last very long anyway. The game kind of meanders, really, I suppose. The music's all right. The sound effects are kind of reasonable. It's all a bit rote and a bit average and a bit boring. The bonus levels are stupidly hard, which I found really annoying. And the game does quickly burn through your lives when you get further into it. But it's not a lot of game for 10 quid, is it really, all said and done? And there are much better alternatives. Just go and play Risk instead, because we played that in the last episode.
We did.
It's way better than this. It's a similar kind of vibe with a similar kind of graphics-ish. And I enjoyed it a lot more. And it's the same sort of price. I think it might have even been £1 less. I'm not sure. But anyway, I didn't really enjoy this for what it was, because it's like it's just not great, is it? What about you?
No, it's the control system, dude. The control system. It's just, I messaged you about it. That's how angry it made me.
It's not good, is it?
Well, so this is I've never played it, but this is Fantasy Zone, a version of Fantasy Zone by Sega, which was on the Mega Master System, I think.
Never played that. Never.
Yeah, well, if you look for Fantasy Zone. And then look at this, it's like, oh yeah, you've just ripped it off. I mean, even down to the main ship design, it's the ship from Fantasy Zone. But I didn't have it to play, so I had a quick look on YouTube, and it does seem to control look the same, but I'm not quite sure if it is the same. So I thought it's got a decent enough visual style. It's quite unusual. The sound's okay. There's the expected weapons power-ups, but it seems to be a lot. You choose them in Fantasy Zone. It's a lot different. So the way they've done it here is weird. But unfortunately, the control system is so very, very annoying. The way that your ship moves about the screen rather than staying central. It's a defender style of game, isn't it? Bidirectional scrolling. So it needs you to be in the middle of the screen, and then the stuff that you need to. So that's where you stay. You stay in the middle if you do playing this kind of game. Weird. Don't have to turn me slightly and then drag me across the screen and move me. Or, I mean, I know Defender don't keep you in the middle, does it? But it keeps you to the right side. I always had that problem with that game. But something like Drop Zone, keep me in the middle of the bloody screen. We've moved on from, but Defender, I do the far right or the far left. And so you could kind of deal with that. This is just annoying. And also as well, the stuff you need to collect when you're trying to angle yourself towards it kind of moves and reacts to your movement, so you suddenly just miss it, and then it disappears really quickly. I don't understand why things bouncing are controlled by you turning. It just makes no sense. They're also really sluggish, and turning makes things seem to make things come towards you quicker. I just kept getting killed, and I hated it. I hated the control so much. I simply wanted no part of this game. If the interface between me and the game is so unwieldy, I've not even inkling of wanting to attempt to persevere with it. Not so much out of this world, it's out of their minds in designing this control system. Yep. I did not care for this. I found this really frustrating. It looks quite nice. And it looked apart. And I loaded it up and I thought, okay, this could be quite interesting. But as soon as I just started playing it, it also reminded me, what was that other crap one? The really old Ultimate one, Imhotep.
Yeah, had the vibes.
It reminded me of that. And that's never a good thing, is it? No, you never want to be reminded of Imhotep. Being reminded
of a dog egg is never good.
No, it's not. So out of this world, no, not for me. And in fact, they actually, there's a comment from somebody, Mr. Marmite, on Lemon 64, where someone says, "Oh, it plays like Fantasy Zone," and then he put, "Of course it does. It was our inspiration." So whether that's the person who made it or not, I don't know. But I think inspiration is it's essentially you've just made Fantasy Zone, but whatever it was, there you go.
Fair enough.
But I need to check out Fantasy Zone, see if it actually controls as bad. And then, Sega made a bad thing and you just replicated a bad thing. Annoyed me. There we go. It got 55% this egg as well.
All the crap eggs seem to be getting half-ass scores. So
No, not for me, this one. Not for me, especially for a tenner. No. Let's move on. We've got one game left. Let's make our way to that. And we are in Canada for this one, for the Winter Olympiad 88. So Let's have a look at this. This was brought to us by Tynesoft. It's got coding by Ian Davison, Chris Murray and Brian Jobling, music by Wally Beban, and the visuals are by Michael Owens. It's got good music, I'd say that. I like the music in this.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's got a terrible title screen, though, where they've missed the A out in Murray and called Wally Beban Wall.
Yeah, it's not good.
It's not good. Anyway, we really are, after last month with bobsleigh and... Last week. Was it last week? Bobsleigh and whatever it was, a couple of weeks back. We really are in the group of Winter Olympics fever with ice hockey and bobsleigh being played a couple of weeks back, and now the full-on Winter Olympiad, or at least 5 events from the Olympiad, the Olympics, whatever. So what are those 5 events, I hear you ask? Well, let me tell you. We have the ski jump, we have the downhill skiing, we have the biathlon, we have the slalom skiing, and finally, the bobsleigh again. Did someone say Winter Games? No?
Shh, don't say it.
Shh. Anyway, when the game loads up after the particularly poor loading screen, we are greeted by a Mountie because the game is in Canada. The games are in Canada after all, so who would expect anything different? Got to be a Mountie if it's Canadian. And you're asked how many players you want between 1 and 6. After choosing how many and entering their names, you can choose their country. Whilst all the while that pop looks back, or is it pops back, whatever it is, something looks back. The Ski Sunday tune is playing away, and another version of that. It's the only tune we have for winter sports. It is like, I think it's written into our
It's the winter sports music.
Yeah, it has to be played. We're then asked which event we want to take part in. This is confusing as a Y and an N flash really fast next to each one. And at first I thought you had to hit the fire button when the Y was showing. But no, you just have to press Y or N to include that event. I don't know why they've done it like this. It was like, I was like pressing the fire and nothing was happening anyway.
Sort of makes sense though.
It does make sense, but like, I suppose it does. I mean, and it's better than the choosing them by random VCR screen, which we saw in that other game.
It's like they've trained their own game.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what it felt like. But it felt like, because you see something flash and you think, am I supposed to choose one? But yes or no, I don't know. It just felt a bit weird. For a strange way. Once you've chosen them, you choose all 5. You get the first time the words Winter Olympiad 88 appear in the game because you're going to see that a lot. As we see the Olympic flame. I don't know why. It's supposed to be the opening ceremonies, I guess. We just get the Olympic flame, and I didn't think particularly a lot happened. And then the first event loads in. It's a multi-load, as per most of these games, which is fair enough. Most of these games are. So we get the first one in, and that is the ski jump. And upon loading, we get our next glimpse of the words Winter Olympiad 88 in massive letters. Massive before the event starts. So it's the ski jump. The view is from the top of the slope, looking down the slope. You're looking down it, see from behind. And as you look on, a stupid, sexy Flanders figure saunters onto the screen. That's the only way I can describe this.
It's like he's wearing nothing at all.
Yeah, that outfit is very figure-hugging, and his buttocks are very well defined. I laugh my head off. That's all I could think of. Stupid, sexy Flanders. It's almost too defined, those buttocks. A stab of the fire button flexes the buttocks. I was laughing at this. Sends the jumper down the slope, and another press at the bottom launches them into the air. Once airborne, you get a side-on view. You must move the joystick up or down to keep the skis straight. And then, just as you're about to land, you press left. If you land successfully, points are awarded for style and distance. You get 3 attempts, and that's it. And next up is the downhill skiing. Again, we are greeted with the words Winter Olympiad 88. And now I'm starting to wonder if at this point this was a contractual thing where they had to put it on each event. So before pressing fire to start. Again, the view is behind the skier, but this time not quite so sexy. They're a bit blockier, not quite so well defined. Your job is to push forward to go faster, back to slow down, and left and right to steer through the sort of oncoming, pretty rubbish 3D trees coming towards you. Essentially, you just skiing through.
Jump.
And well, yeah, I'll come to that in a minute. Yeah, 3D trees coming towards you. So essentially, it's a 3D into the screen. Avoid the trees. You're just skiing through a wood. I don't know if that's how downhill skiing actually works. I'm not seeing that much. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. You can also press fire to jump over any logs in the way. Once it's over with, you then strangely must press fire and then up to get to the next event. And it's the only event where you have to do that when you got to get to the next event. I didn't understand. Anyway, up next is the biathlon. Waggle left and right to move through the 6 screens that look strangely familiar to another game we have played, but we shall not mention. Then shoot at the targets. Do this 3 times and finish. Oh, and don't forget it's the Winter Olympiad 88, as you're told at the beginning, just as it does at the start of the next event, the slalom. So this is seen from an isometric perspective, and your skier moves down the course from top right to bottom left. You must weave in and out of the flags by moving left and right, going the right side of them to avoid penalties. I think it's stay on the left of the yellow ones and on the right of the brown ones, so it could be the other way around. Took me a while to notice I was doing it the wrong way around. First of all, just going meh, meh, meh. I was like, oh, sorry. Lowest score wins, obviously. So get those penalties, get down as quick as you can. Fastest time wins. That's it. Finally, we move to the bobsleigh in the Winter Olympiad 88, which it reminds us of once again. Two blocky and slightly squashed bobsleighers wobble across the screen, pushing their bobsleigh before we move into the 3D world of bobsleigh. You hurtle down the unending track. It just went on forever and ever and ever. It seems to bear no resemblance to the map on the side of the screen. You got steering to the corners, like the game that we're not going to mention. Don't get too high or you'll tumble out. A tap on the fire button is your brake should things start to get away from you. And that's it. Once done. If you manage to get down the unending track that went on for about, I think I was going down for about 3 or 4 minutes. It was still going. I was like, why is this not finished?
Bloody endless.
Once done, that's it. That's your Winter Olympiad. It's a strange game. It's very clearly very, very influenced by winter games. I mean, libelously slow.
Influenced is one word. Yeah.
Libelously slow at times. But unfortunately, it's nowhere near as good as that game in any way, shape, or manner. The graphics are all over the place. There's no consistency from event to event. Stupid Sexy Flanders on your ski jump. I think he turns up again in one of the, maybe in the third one. The biathlon is very similar, sort of high risk sprite. The blocky bobsleighers, the isometric look of the fourth one, the blocky 3D effect, the weird, it's all over the place. The backdrops, some are nicely drawn, some of the animations in them, but there's no shading on them. It's just nothing. It's a very bitty experience. It doesn't hang together in any way, shape, or form. And to be fair, they should have planned this a while back. It can't be that this is rushed, because it's not like they weren't aware the Winter Olympiad 88 wasn't coming soon. It was on the calendar. The prevalence of the word Winter Olympiad 88 is overbearing. None of the events are really much fun to play. The music is okay. Wally Beban's tunes are pretty good, and some tunes are better than others, but none of the, I don't think any of them really suited the game at all, apart from the opening title, Ski Sunday. It feels like it was rush released to get it out in time for the Olympics. With only 5 events, it just pales in comparison to the older and yet still far greater Winter Games. And even if that does have 2 skating events, it's still got the ski jumping, that's better. The bobsleigh's better because it's over in 20 odd seconds. It's all just better. The biathlon's better because there's only 4 screens rather than the boring 6. And there's different things to do. There's up and down, sort of load your gun and stuff. It's better. I mean, we bemoaned the lack of a skiing event in that, but it's still a better game. The hot dog is way better. The graphics, the backgrounds are well drawn. Winter Games is great. Everything here feels unpolished, and there's no real reason to go back to give this a look when the Epics game exists. I think was it one of the reviewers in Zapped actually said some compilation is out for the same price and it's got Winter Games on it. Just go buy that. If you're going up against Epics, against one of the Epics greats, you've got to knock it out the park. You've got to be up there. And this didn't even find the entrance to the park to try and knock it out in the first place. So no. Oh, did I mention it was called Winter Olympiad 88? Just want to make sure you caught that. Because I
got that, I think.
Did you get that? All right. So no, this was not very good at all. 66% it got. I can only presume that's like 12% or 13% per event, but it's a mishmash of. I mean, the events work, but they're not very enjoyable or good. Just go play Winter Games, for God's sake. What did you think?
My first comment was, oh Lord, why would you attempt this when Winter Games exists? They've called it Winter Olympiad. All right, an Olympiad is actually a gap between Olympics events. So the gap between them is the Olympiad. So like a decade is a 10 years. An Olympiad is the gap between the actual events.
4 years?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So not so Winter Olympiad 88 means 88. No, that's stupid, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's the gap between the actual Winter Olympics. It's just an Olympiad is not a licensed derivative of Olympics, I think, which is what they've done. It's actually a period of time where nothing happens anyway, which is ironic, really. My question is, why would you attempt to do this? Why? Why would you do this? Why put yourself through the creation of this stupid piece of shit? There's some nice static type images here and there, like you say, backgrounds here and there, okay. The main sprites, though, they're all pretty crap, and the controls are generally shit. The events is a decent list because they've ripped it off another game. But the initial presentation, okay, it's kind of there. It's the way it presents itself, you're like, wow, okay, it's Winter Olympiad 88, I get that. Yeah, with the big title, graphics, and everything else. The music's good, though. It's when you get to the actual games themselves, falls apart very rapidly, doesn't it? The ski jump, for example, horrible. Janky animation where you go down the slope and kind of joop, 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 that kind of judder vision. It's awful.
Yep.
No, there's no smooth scrolling or anything like that. No scaling of the sprite. It just reduces in size as it gets further down, which is bad. Then you got that horrible flying part to control. Naff. Awfulness. Then it's it's not as good as the Winter Games variation. Okay. And then you get downhill skiing. Again, good music. Actually, quite good, really good music in that bit. But it suffers from the same problem. Again, with the biathlon, same problem. Bobsleigh, same problem. It's just crap. Crap to control. Crap looking. Crap. Visually, parts of it are nice. Orally, okay, nice. Borley Bubbin, again, providing the goods. And whether the David Vine is included in this, because it's in the instructions, isn't he?
Bit in the instructions made me laugh my head off.
Hi, I'm David Vine. You might remember me from such Olympics as... And just
Such Olympiads.
stupid. Yeah. But whether he's involved or not, all I was, when I was thinking about this game, was eagerly awaiting the sun to come out and melt the shit out of all the snow so that I wouldn't have to put up with it. So it was just, not the Winter Olympics. Who'd pay for this rubbish? Why would you even contemplate releasing something that has already been done and done better? Read the room, game people. It's already out there. If you're not making a game that's better, don't bother.
And don't forget, Winter Games was like, winter 1985.
Exactly.
It's 2 and a bit years old.
If you're not making a game better than that, don't do it. It's another shonky game with a stupid title, some decent music, the occasional nice backgrounds, but that can't save this from being what it is. Winter dog egg. And it's like treading on a dog shit in the snow, isn't it? It's unfortunate, untimely, and unwanted. Begone, snow demon. And that's my final comment.
Yeah, indeed. I'm just looking at some of the graphics for Winter Games still, and they're way better. Look, the backdrop on like the ski jump is great. The hot dogging, the animation for the skating, the speed skating. The speed skating is better than this entire game.
Just remember, this game is ultimately set in the period between Olympics. So these are not measurable events. This is just amateurs having a bit of a goof playing on the track. It's just stupid.
In fact, I'm just looking at the main screen for the thingy screen, the opening ceremony screen, and the guy in the blue tracksuit that runs on and lights the flame in Winter Games is very similar to the stupid sexy Flanders sprite. I don't
doubt that they've borrowed a bit of, but of course they have. It's a rip-off, but it's a crap one. Just get lost. Stop it. No more now. Go. Be gone.
No. Yeah. Poor.
I'm scraping this dog shit off my shoe, and I'm not happy about the fact that I stood in it anyway.
No, you can't see it in snow. That's the problem.
Exactly. Don't eat yellow snow. Don't tread in dog crap in the snow.
No, because it just makes a horrible brown mess.
Yes.
And no one wants that.
No one likes brown snow.
No, in any way, shape, or form. It's the worst slushy you can ask for.
Brown snow. It's a horrible thought.
Colour, do you want your slushy? Brown. Red? Do you want red, cherry? Or brown?
Cherry, blue. Do you want blueberry? Whatever the blue flavour is, blueberry? No, we're brown.
Oh, you want chocolate?
Brown slush? You want a brown slushy?
You want chocolate? No, brown.
Brown. I said brown.
No chocolate,
God.
just brown.
Okay. It's going to be like one guy, one cup, but okay.
Oh, it's not going to be icy.
No. Maybe a bit nutty, but...
oh, this episode's gross.
It's gone downhill rapidly,
It went
unlike
downhill
the
from
game we just played.
From the very moment we talked about the Predator pulling out Billy.
Exactly. Unlike going downhill on this game, which occurred in 3 stages of crap sprite animation.
True, I suppose. Awful. There we go. There's Winter Olympiad. And that's it. That's the 8 games for this week. I can only apologise. I don't know how the hell I'm going to tweet anything about this lot. But tweet I must. I must say something interesting. It will be something anyway. So what did we look at? We looked at Platoon, which was technically clever and thing, but questionable.
Thematically compromising.
Dubious, yes. Then we looked at Super G-Man, which probably your favourite of the bunch, I'd imagine, wasn't it?
I really liked it, because it's so stupidly simple and basic, but when I was looking at the rest of these games, it's not saying much, is it, when that's the best, one of the better ones, really?
It's not. Andy Capp, Life in a Northern Town in late 80s Thatcherite Britain.
Yeah, Andy Crap.
No,
I'm saying it. I'm saying it. I had to because it's I'm just going for low-hanging fruit now. I've played Winter Olympiad and I'm very disappointed with everything.
There was enough low-hanging fruit in that stupid, sexy Flanders sprite.
There was.
I could see all his low-hanging fruit.
with his pert buttocks.
I could see his proper dangleberries. Lifeforce, which I didn't mind, had an idea, but wasn't the best. Had a couple of nice ideas. Beat It, which was okay. Beat It was all right.
Yeah,
Colourful and tuneful and okay.
The arcade that never was.
Yeah, Mass 2 was crap. Out of This World was uncontrollable. And finally, Winter Olympiad was 4 years of boredom. Misnamed.
Mask poo.
Mask poo. Yeah, out of their minds at Winter Olympiad. What we got coming up next week? Hopefully there'll be something better, but games coming next week.
Make it better than that.
Well, we've got Hunter's Moon.
Okay, that's okay. That's
Clever and
that being quite
Smart,
good.
which I reckon is going to be a Jekyll and Hyde.
I'm very worried about that.
Psycho Soldier.
That's
Nightmare.
shouts average. Oh, that shouts even more average.
I think Psycho Soldier is the follow-up to Athena.
Oh, okay, that's not good.
Don't quote me on that though. Albums. So we've got albums. Then we've got Inside Outing, which I think is quite a clever 3D isometric.
It is, but it was always better on the Amstrad.
Maybe Bad Cat, which I'm probably not expecting much from. Flying Shark, which is arcade conversion, I think. And finally, Vengeance. That's our lineup for next week. Please come back.
The sea of average. Goodness, look at the scores. 37, 63 and 53.
Well, we don't know
those last
if
three games alone.
They're correct until we play them.
I know. But I'm just like, it's like if that's the preview. Just like when you go to a movie and you get really boring trailers, you're like, why wasn't there a good trailer?
I know. I'm very sorry.
The adverts are better than the trailers. You're like, oh.
I know. I tried my best to put some. It's just
you know what? You can only work with what you've got to work with.
That is it. It's exactly what Jimmy Cranky says.
Demon out.
Marin! Okay, just to sort of say, as per normal, if you've enjoyed this and you wish to support us, you can do that in a financial manner. If you go over to patreon.com/zapped to the past, for the price of a pint of beer, you can get all the cool stuff. Join the Discord, loads of good stuff going on there, high scores. You can get the episodes 3 days early, or at least 2.5 days early. You can be listening to them over the weekend, and all the other good stuff that's going on there. That's cool. So if you want to do that, you could. There's also just chug us a quid, and that's massively appreciated as well. So that's that. I think that's about it. It's been one of those episodes, short but crap. It's a lot of this stuff in here.
The games are crap. The episode's been short but cool.
Yeah, absolutely. But anyway, on that note, I have been Adrian Mills.
I have been Graham. Winter Olympiad is rubbish, Raddings.
And you've been listening to Out of This World, Andy Crap, Mask Poo, or otherwise known as Zapped to the Past. And we'll see you again next week. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Zapped to the Past podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of Commodore 64 games, as well as the music, films and TV from around the 1980s, driven, of course, by the issue of Zap 64 magazine published at that time. We will return with a whole new batch of games and stuff to talk about next week. Until then, if you want to listen to or download previous episodes of Zapped to the Past, and why wouldn't you, they can all be found on our website at zappedtothepast.com, as well as being available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, Audible, Player FM, and, well, pretty much anywhere where we can upload them. By the way, we do always love to hear from our amazing listeners, so if you'd like to contact us about anything in the podcast or beyond, you can do so by emailing us at zappedtothepast@gmail.com. We're also active on Twitter under @ZapTother, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and most social media platforms. Just search for Zapped to the Past and you'll find us. Oh, and if you like the podcast and what we're doing, please do like, share, review, rate us. It really helps. Something, apparently. The Zapped to the Past podcast is written and produced by Adrian Mills and Graham Raddings, and recorded at Flaky Bits 2.0 Studio. All opinions expressed are those of the writers, and while we indeed love Zap 64 magazine, the Zapped to the Past podcast is not affiliated with it in any way. Stay safe, see you next time, and remember, we play these games so you don't have to.